Hey everybody, we're doing a Scholomance Academy card review today, and I'm your host, SigTrent. So I've been playing Hearthstone since the very early days, and you'll see me here now. And we're going to be going over all the cards here in the Scholomance set. So they revealed them all a couple of days ago, and I got this whole little board set up so I can review them live, and we'll give it little ratings and talk about all the new cards. So I'm really excited about this new set. I'm always excited about every new set, so that's nothing unusual. But this one, having looked over the cards in advance here, I can say that I think that they're pretty powerful, that this set has got a lot of different build possibilities, so we're going to see a lot of new and interesting decks. We're going to see some new deck types that are going to come in. People are going to experiment with things. We'll find out how the meta shakes up, but it's definitely going to shake it up. And I think we'll see a lot of new and interesting things. So there's a lot of powerful cards in here. I would say, you know, on the average level of the average card in this set is much higher than most of the sets I'm used to. Usually we get a few really powerful cards, kind of a lot of junk, and then a bunch of stuff in the middle. But this time it feels like there really are a lot of very powerful cards, not very much junk, and a little bit less stuff in the middle. It's really weighted on the upper end. And that's going to make for a big shakeup, I think. Even though we had a lot of powerful cards before, I'm going to see even more. And there's some mechanics in here that we haven't seen before in Hearthstone. So let's go through one card at a time and take a look at these. I think there are like 135 of them, so this could take a little while. So buckle in, and we'll see how it goes. And I'll try not to get too sleepy. Okay, so we're going to look at our first card. We've got here a Desk Imp. Who doesn't want a Desk Imp? Well, it is, and I will read the card information for those who just want to listen to the broadcast. So this is a 1/1 Imp Demon for 0. And it's an unlined card, so anybody can use this thing. So we've pretty much seen this before in terms of a 0/1/1 critter before, and usually it's not a big deal. It's a demon, so that gives it a little bit of extra synergy for Demon Hunter and for Warlock. Sometimes a good synergy, sometimes maybe a bad synergy because you don't want this thing targeted. It's not really exciting to get this as a random demon, definitely, so that kind of weakens that card pool a little bit. Overall, you know, we had, a Wisp is the old 1/1 for 0. It's not super impactful, but it does show up in decks every once in a while, so it's not complete garbage. So we're going to give it 2 stars out of 5. By the way, my rating system, 1 star, pretty much junk. You'll almost never see it, just dust it. 2, you'll see it occasionally, but it's probably not a super important card. 3, playable, but not one of the best cards. 4, it's a strong card on its own. It has good value. It may be part of some important combos, just generally a strong card, maybe not meta defining, but definitely an important card. 5 means it's a card that maybe defines the meta, or it's just outrageously powerful in and of itself, which means eventually it's going to be part of some broken deck somewhere. So that's kind of the idea. 5 is maybe nerf worthy, or at least close to it. 4 is just a strong card. 3 kind of in the middle. 2, pretty junk. 1, nothing. And I'm generally, I tend to weight towards 3, so I don't give a lot of 5s, don't give a lot of 1s. We'll see what happens. Okay, next card. The Animated Broomstick. So this is a 1/1 unaligned minion for 1 mana. It has Rush, and as a battle cry, it gives your other minions Rush. So the other minions that are already on the board have Rush. You could play a big non-Rush minion and then follow up with the Animated Broomstick to give it Rush. That's probably your main reason for doing it. Of course, the cards that you already had on board probably don't need Rush. Or if you're playing a deck that has a lot of card generation, so you're going to generate minions on board, and there are a bunch of things that do that here in the set, either Death Rattle or some other cause that's going to generate minions into your board, you could play the Broomstick and then give them Rush right away. So it definitely has some potential, but I think on its own, it doesn't do a lot by itself. A 1/1 Rush minion is nothing very exciting for anybody. It's not a lot of removal. Giving your other minions Rush unless you have some special strategy is generally kind of weak. So some people will find a way to make good use of this card, but I think you have to try pretty hard. So we're going to give it a 2. It has some potential, but I don't think it's really going to impact the meta a whole lot. All right, next up is the Intrepid Initiate. This one's pretty interesting. It is a 1/2 neutral minion for 1 cost, and it has Spell Burst, gain +2 attack. Now, Spell Burst is an effect that goes off on a minions the first time you play a spell after the minion has come into play. That's kind of interesting because generated cards can still do their Spell Burst effects, unlike, say, a Battle Cry. So it has a little bit different mechanical flavor. So this is a card, you could play it on 1, then you cast a spell on turn 2, and it's going to become a 3/2. It's going to be a permanent bonus, so it just stays with it, so now it's a 3/2. Of course, you could silence it to get rid of that buff, I believe. So I think this is pretty interesting. You know, a 3/2 for 1 mana is very powerful, but you need to activate this with a spell. Being able to consistently cast a second turn spell is not real common. You don't always have targets. Now, if you're playing a buffing class, if you're playing Paladin, or if you're playing Priest, I think this guy has some potential. Let's say you put +2/+2 from Paladin on there, and now you've got a 5/4 on turn 2. You come face. That's going to be a real pain in the butt to deal with. That's a pretty strong opening. But I think aside from this kind of a buff, it's not necessarily a strong card just for the card value itself. It's not that great because it's a little bit challenging to activate unless that's your overall strategy, is to buff minions and go face. So I think it's a little bit weak. Mage maybe could get some use out of it with some kind of a tempo deck. If you know you're going to be casting spells on 2 prep spells, like go get the free secret or something like that. So you need a game plan to really make this work. I think I'm going to give it 3 stars. I mean, potentially it could be a really strong card in the right deck, but I think as a neutral minion, overall, you'd only see it in very specialized decks. So that's why I'm going to give it a 3. Even though I think it's one to watch, and it's one to maybe see if you can build with. All right, next up, the Pen Flinger. I think this is a really interesting minion. It is a 1/1 neutral minion for 1 mana. And has the battle cry, deal 1 damage, so that you can target anything, target face, target another minion, whatever you like. And as a spell burst, return this minion to your hand. Now, I'm a long-time Magic player. In Magic, we call this like bounce, right? So you can play this minion, then you play a spell, you get it back. You can play the minion again, do another damage. You can play another spell and put it back in your hand. So you can keep getting this 1 ping damage over and over again. Now, if you have something that triggers on a minion play, that means, let's say, like Quest Rogue, which is only in open now, but at any rate, you could play the Spellflinger over and over and over again and keep picking it up each time you cast a spell, and thus replay the minion and satisfy your quest. Plus, you did 5 damage, theoretically, as you're pinging away. So I think there are some other quests, like with Questing Adventure or something. You can get a lot of extra card plays this way, especially if you can cheapen it up or something, or if the spells are free, or if you get recurring spells, then you can cycle spells and minions a whole bunch. So there's definitely a lot of combo potential with this card. There is nothing right now in the game that I look and think, oh, wow, that's busted. You could do this thing. It's crazy. But there might be, right? So keep an eye out for this card. It definitely has some really interesting potential. I think if nothing else, it's super fun to make decks that bounce minions and spells up and down and do a lot of crazy combo things. So I think this is a really fun card. I'm glad it's in here. I don't think it'll immediately have impact because even if you're doing this, it's going to take a lot of mana to bounce this thing up and down. You're not getting a ton of impacts, like 1 damage, right? But watch out for this thing. So I'm going to give it a 3 because it has this potential to do a lot more than it looks, but just on a straight value perspective, it's not especially amazing. So, and this is very much a value impact card play kind of a game. All right, let's go to the next one. Sphere of Influence. So this is really unusual because it's an unaligned weapon, as far as I understand. So that would be sort of the first unaligned weapon that we have. It's a 0/4, and it costs 1. And at the start of your turn, look at your top card. If you can put it, you can put it on the bottom and lose 1 durability. So the weapon will degrade over time if you choose to use it. So you get up to 4 cycles. We usually call this, I don't know, we used to call it, it's not really cycling, man. Cycling is just when you trade a card for a card. It's refining the top of your deck, just giving you more control over your draw. That could be a really powerful effect. In Magic, it's extremely powerful. In Hearthstone, a little bit less. The decks are smaller. It does help you put together combos. It does help you get rid of bad draws. So it can be really important, but I think it has to be the right kind of deck. This isn't powerful enough. You are throwing away a card in order to do this. So you play this weapon, you get no other benefit from it except for this like card refinement on the top of your deck. That can be really important if you're a combo deck and you have a lot of draw or something, and you can really kind of control the flow of the game, and you can make up for the card disadvantage that you put. So like it's pretty good in Warlock because you get the inherent card draw. You can get back the value that you spent on it. You have to spend some mana, but then maybe you're going to use cheap removal or something. So it's definitely a card to watch out for. It might enhance combo decks to a point where they become incredibly reliable and it's difficult. So it has a lot of potential, but then again, it's kind of wasting time. If the meta is fast and aggressive, this thing is just too slow and not enough impact to really change the course of a game, and you really need a lot of impact in Hearthstone generally. I do think we're going to see a pretty aggressive meta, considering some of the other cards, and so this might just be something of a waste. Then again, maybe it's going to help you get the perfect answer. I'm not really sure. I'm gonna punt a little bit, and we'll give it a 3 because I certainly think it is a useful effect, but I don't know if it's enough of an impactful effect. Certainly, it's not a card that everybody's going to be playing. Plus, you can't rely on it because it's a unique weapon, unless you're warrior, and then you can go get it, whatever you like, and you could do a little bit more. I think the 4 opportunities is not too bad. It's probably pretty balanced. You can always get this weapon back if somehow it's amazingly powerful. We have a minion to do that. Yeah, but I'm still going with 3. I'm not convinced that it's going to rock the world. It might actually be a 2 or 1, because if it doesn't cut it, people just aren't going to play it. But I'm not 100% convinced, because it depends on the kinds of decks that we see running around. All right, next up. Tour Guide. This is a 1/1 unaligned minion for 1 mana. Battle Cry. Your next hero power costs 0. I'm not impressed with this card. Most of the hero powers, getting them down to 0 is not very impactful on the course of the game. It could give you a little bit of tempo. The only one where I can really see it maybe is Warlock, because basically this is a 1/1 for 1, draw a card, cycle your deck. Warlock really likes to do that. You do take 2 points of damage, but we had a 2/1 for 1 mana that cycled a card for 2 damage, so this is just a little bit weaker. I think it could see a little bit of play in a very specialized deck. I'm going to give it 2 stars. I'm very tempted to give it 1 star, but like I said, I'm a little conservative when it comes to my ratings. So we'll stick with that. Can't think of anything just amazing that you can do with this. So next up, the Cult Neophyte. So this is a 3/2 unaligned minion that costs 2. And Battle Cry. Your opponent's spells cost 1 more next turn. So all their spells. Now, I mean, this is pretty crippling maybe for a Spell Fury deck. Spell Druid doesn't really want to see this on their big spell turn. You know, Spell Mage maybe doesn't like this. It cramps their style a little bit. It's nothing as impactful, however, as 5 extra costs for your spell. Because it's not going to stop you, probably, from playing a single spell that you want. It's more impactful if they're going to play many spells. I don't think it's quite powerful enough of an effect, unless there's some very specific deck where we very specifically don't want them to cast X spell on X turn, and it's a big problem. It seals the game for them, and this prevents it. It's just on cost for its body. It's not going to do a whole lot for you in progressing your game. I mean, it's not bad, but I don't think this is going to see very much play. I'm going to give it 2 stars just because theoretically, if you bounced it or you did some funny tricks with it, you could get some mileage out of it, and it's not badly costed, so yeah, 2 stars. I don't think we'll see this very much. Maybe I'm wrong. We shall see. That's the fun of these, is to find out just how wrong the host is when all is said and done. All right, next up, the Mana Feeder Panthara. All right, Mana Feeder Panthara. This sounds like it should be a magic card, but it's in Hearthstone. It's a 2/3 beast, unaligned for 2 mana, so right on cost, generally speaking. Beast is kind of a nice tag. Battle Cry. If you've used your hero power this turn, draw a card. So there's nothing amazing about this. If you're using your hero power now, like, you know, if you're Odd over in Wild and you've got a 1 mana hero power, or if you're Demon Hunter, you got a 1 mana hero power, this is actually a little bit better because you're going to get it out early. Dropping a 2/3 mana, a 2/3 minion in the late part of the game kind of means nothing, and it just becomes a draw card cycle. But in the early game, poking with Demon Hunter, dropping this, draw a card, might be good for your tempo. For other decks, if it's a very stally deck, maybe, but I don't know. I think there's just a little bit more direct ways you can draw a card. If you just want to draw a card, you know, you got the 1/1 for 2. You can draw a card in the base set. And if you're just looking to cycle, I think that there are cheaper, more reliable options, because you're generally going to need 4 mana to make this cycle happen. That's when you really need to be interacting in the game. I don't think it's going to be that good, so I'm rocking it with a 2 again. Because this set is kind of high power, and so if you're just kind of sort of averagey, I mean, normally I might give this a 3. I'm rocking a 2. Next up, the Sneaky Delinquent. And this is a 3/1 neutral minion for 2. It has stealth and death rattle. Add a 3/1 ghost with stealth to your hand. Oh, okay, let's take a look. We've got a couple of these kinds of minions. I don't know what we want to call them. They replace themselves in your hand, but you still have to pay the mana for them. The ghost does not have death rattle, so it's not sort of some infinite value. You just get the 2/3/1s. We saw this a little bit with Demon Hunter. You've got the 2/1 that replaces itself back into your hand, so it's not a brand new mechanic. Just kind of an on-spot minion. I played that card, but it generally didn't make itself known in the meta. It wasn't strong enough. The fact that this has stealth has a little synergy for Stealth Rogue, because it really gives you 2 stealth minions to work with. You can make a very stealth-heavy deck now, so it does round out that deck with a good set of choices for stealth minions that you can consistently activate stealth abilities on. Is it good, though? No, I think it's just sort of on average. Spy Mistress is nice because it's 3/1 for 1, so you get this really impactful card you drop on turn 1. I think this guy, again, rocks a 2. It's a playable card. It's probably not a card that gets into the meta because it's just not super strong. All right, that's that. Next up, Transfer Student. Well, we all have experience with this card now because it's been in the meta for a little while. We've been playing it. We know that as a value card, it's really not too bad. It's a pretty strong 2-drop. Whatever ability you're going to get off of it is probably going to give you enough value that it's more valuable than a 2/3 or a 3/2 or something like that. We don't have a lot of incredible 2-drops in the game these days. There's some nice ones, but there's nothing super amazing. So Transfer Student is actually kind of just good, solid value. And it's enough so that it makes it into decks that are just kind of looking to fill a 2-drop with something of value, but they want a body on the board. So I think it gets kind of a solid 3, right? Like, it's a decent value card that you just might put in your deck. The problem is, of course, what bonus you get is a little unreliable, so it's just sort of a value filler. And that means it doesn't make the cut in really strong decks, generally. It's just kind of filling in on other decks. I have my Priest deck right now. I like it. Usually when I play it, I get something kind of nice. So, and occasionally it could be really strong. Just depends on what board you're on and what kind of game you're in, etc., etc. It's a little bit like a big fat lackey. But at any rate, I'm going to give it a 3. And we'll move along. Next on the hit parade is the Voracious Reader, right? So this is a 1/3 unaligned minion for 2. At the end of your turn, draw until you have 3 cards, right? So we've seen cards with these kinds of mechanics before. I've played them before. They're generally not super impactful. They sometimes find themselves in an incredible super tempo deck that just blazes out cheap free cards and then reloads the hand. And you just play this really as a kind of card draw. So it's a 2 mana, draw 3 cards. And that can be kind of strong if you can find a deck that really needs something like this. Demon Hunter might be able to play it. We could make a Demon Hunter deck that's incredibly cheap cards. But a lot of that right now, Demon Hunter already has some good card draw, and they're arguably a little bit better than this card draw. But it's a neutral, so we could find another card. Maybe there's kind of like a cheap throwaway Shaman deck. I've seen some of these Horde Shamans. Maybe a cheap throwaway Horde Druid deck could really benefit from this. Druid is missing kind of some cheaper, unrestricted card draw. Somebody could make use of this, but I don't think inherently it's all that strong. I've played with the other versions of these. They're a little more expensive. They get stuck in your hand a lot. They just kind of fill up your hand with useless junk if you're not in a position where you can really take advantage of it. Certain kinds of decks can really punish decks that just go super cheap, super fast. I'm going to give it a 3 because I think maybe somebody will make this thing really work, but I don't think it's going to be widespread if it does. It'll just be in like one kind of deck. All right, moving on. The Wand Maker. And this is a 2/2 neutral minion with a very fuzzy picture for some reason. The picture set that I got, this one's terrible. It has 2 mana. Battle Cry, add a 1-cost spell from your class to your hand. So this is just sort of a straight value. You're going to get 1-cost spell. You don't know what it is. It doesn't say random, but I'm going to assume it's a random spell. From your class, yeah, I mean, it's okay. If you're just some kind of weird tempo deck and you need cheapo spells for some kind of cycling trick, kind of a mage deal, this might work. It might be kind of helpful. It's fun to play. I love playing cards that gen random cards just because you don't know what you're going to work with. You got this puzzle to try and figure out how you're going to do it. So I'll probably play with this deck or play with this card if I get it just because it's kind of fun. But I don't think I can build a powerful deck with it. So he gets a 2. Teetering towards the 1, really, but we'll give it a 2 because it's fun. I like fun cards. All right, next one, the Educated Elec. And this is a 3/4 beast unaligned for 3. So this is solid stats. Whenever a spell is played, this minion remembers it. Death Rattle. Shuffle the spells into your deck. Whew. This is a really interesting card. So it's going to remember every spell that is played. Your opponent's spell and your spells. So this could get really exciting. I mean, it's a super fun card, if nothing else, right? And then Death Rattle, boom, those goes in cards back into your deck. If you're playing against Priest, they might steal it and put those cards into their deck. The bastards. And Priest would just love that. So Priest is like licking their chops looking for this. Thing is, though, I don't think it's going to impact the meta necessarily because you just have so little control over what's going to happen. Maybe there's some sneaky way you're going to cycle on some legendary spell back into your deck or some kind of cool spell, giving you extra reach if you have some big combo decks so you can put more combos back into your deck. When this comes out, people are going to be a little bit afraid of the value that it can represent in like a longer game. Might be really interesting if we do get into grindy games that go to the end of the stack. This is a way to push a lot of cards back into your deck maybe. It's super interesting. It's got decent stats. It has some potential, but there's nothing obviously that jumps out at me and like, boom, you can just flood the board and crush your opponent with this. So 3 stars. Be conservative, but watch out for it. It could go up to 4. It could be just a fun card. It could be a 2. All right, next up, the Enchanted Cauldron. This is a 1/6 unaligned minion for 3. It has Spell Burst. Cast a random spell of the same cost. Right now, I remember I said, "Wow, this is such a powerful set," and I'm rating lots of 2s and 3s. Well, yeah, we're in the neutral minions. This is the way life is. We'll get to the powerful stuff. Don't worry. This isn't one of them. Casting a random spell of the same cost is fun and cute, but it's 3 for a 1/6. It's super low board impact. Yeah, maybe your opponent will delay in removing it for a turn or 2 because it's kind of dumb and they're not afraid of it, and you might actually help them out. I think this is just kind of junk. I'm going to give this a 1 star. My first no. Maybe somebody... I mean, yeah, you could play this deck and you could do something clever, but it's not going to be because this is awesome. It could easily come back and bite you in the butt. So I'm going to say no. People aren't going to play it. They can't control it well enough. It's not impactful enough. All right, number 3. This is the Robes of Protection, not number 3. It costs 3. Robes of Protection. It's a 2/4 neutral minion for 3 mana. It says your minions can't be targeted by spells or hero powers. So none of your minions targeted by spells or hero powers. Wow, I usually call this warding, so they're warded. Yeah, so it includes itself, so you can't target it. You can't target any of the others at that point. We don't have a ton of stuff. Now, it locks you out of targeting them too, but this could actually be like really powerful in Zoo. I mean, you can use it if somebody's using a lot of targeted stuff for hero powers, and that's a problem for a deck that floods the boards with tiny minions. And then you play this, and your opponent can't target your horde of minions with their targeted spells. That could be a real pain in the butt. It's 2/4. It's not bad stats for 3. It's not great stats, not aggressive, but if you're buffing your minions somehow or doing things like that, I don't know, it could be impactful. I think it's so fairly costed that we're not going to see a ton of it, and it requires a big board out for you to use it. You're not going to play it in a deck with like big minions and, I protect my big minion, because you probably played the big minion on the previous turn. But then again, if you get this out and it sticks and then you can drop big guys, it's probably not going to stick around. So I think it's just an okay card. We're going to give it 3 stars. I think smart deck builders might find a real place for it, and it could be really frustrating in the right meta. So that's my take on this one. Keep an eye on that card. All right, next up, the Crimson Hothead. This is a 3/6 neutral dragon for 4 mana. So 3/6 for 4 is definitely pretty decent on dragon tag. Spell Burst. Gain +1 attack and taunt. So you cast a spell of some kind, and now it's a 4/7 taunt for 4, which is really good. Yeah, it's got real potential. I mean, Dragon Priest could definitely end up playing this card. Even if you don't, give it the +1 and taunt right away, that's maybe something you're just like, well, it'll happen eventually. Just makes this card stickier and more unpleasant and useful. I don't think it's a powerhouse, though. Like, you're not going to build a deck around this. It's just kind of like, what dragon am I going to play? Maybe I need a little bit more taunt protection. So I pick this. Yeah, give it a 3. It has potential. Because sometimes Priest needs that filler, and this is neutral, so you're going to find a lot of places for it. Maybe Shaman can make good use out of this. Maybe Mage could have a nice defensive taunt. Got a lot of potential. Not going to blow anyone else, but but it could be there. All right. Next up, the Divine Rager. This is a 5/1 elemental, unaligned. It costs 4 mana. One of these days, they're going to push a 5/1 or a 4/1 neutral character, and people are going to play it. They're like, we'll give it Divine Shield. Maybe that will do the trick. Maybe. So we had a 3/1 for 3 with Divine Shield, and that's like a good card over in Arena, but a useless card in Constructed generally. Sometimes when I have a bubble quest, a shield quest, a Divine Shield quest, I will play those cards. And you know, sometimes if you play nothing but Divine Shields in your deck, there's a tip. You make a deck with all Divine Shield minions. This will just frustrate some decks. Some decks cannot handle that, and they will just fold under the pressure. Other decks will just ignore you because they have some kind of area damage to remove all those shields. But yeah, some decks, that can just be a death sentence, even though it's not a good deck because it's just a bunch of Divine Shield. Anyway, Divine Rager, pretty easy to remove in trade. Hunter has no problem with it. Demon Hunter probably has no problem with it. But, you know, like, it almost has potential. I'm going to give it 2 stars because it's not complete junk, and maybe somebody can compound on this in addition to other cards. I've said this before. I think mostly we're not going to see it, but you never know. I'm going to give it 2 because just overall, like, quality, it is kind of a high-quality card. If you play it unopposed, it is a little hard for your opponent to remove. You could get your trades out of it and stuff, so, you know, it's got a little something going on. All right, next up, the Fishy Flyer. This is a 4/3 neutral Murloc, so new Murloc, for 4 mana. Not a great price point for Murlocs. You need a lot of impact. Rush, that's pretty good. Death Rattle, add a 4/3 Ghost with Rush to your hand. Well, okay. I don't think the Ghost is a Murloc, unfortunately, as far as I know. It's just a 4/3 Rush Ghost. Mana-wise, not super efficient. A 4/3 Rush is okay, but it's not super special. Maybe Murlocs, however, might see a little value in it, but they really want tempo. This is not a tempo card. It's kind of a value per card. So if you don't get card draw, having this kind of card generation is good. So for a really slow Murloc deck, yeah. I don't think so. I think we're looking at 2 here. It's not complete junk, right? Because you're definitely going to get something. You get 2 for rush minions. If you're stalling out and you're playing a value plan, you could actually get some value out of this card. If you pull this as a random Murloc, you're not going to be horribly disappointed, right? You're not going to be like, oh, I'm never going to play it. So it gets a 2. I'm pretty stingy with the 1s, by the way, as you may have noticed. All right, next up, we've got a legendary. It's Lore Keeper Polkhelt, and he is a 4/5 neutral minion for 4. His battle cry: reorder your deck from the highest cost card to the lowest cost card. Boom. Crazy, right? This is a mind-blowing deck. We've never seen anything, or mind-blowing card. We've never seen anything quite like it in Hearthstone before. Massive deck manipulation. Now, we have seen deck manipulation get rid of all your 3 cost or lower. That's pretty powerful. This kind of works like that because you're going to put all the big stuff on top. But I mean, if you're building your deck and you're carefully arranging the value of the cards because you want to pull some combos and you put them in here and then you play this card, you get your combo set up and you get them pulled really fast. Maybe you're playing with the little Orby thing. There's a lot of interesting possibilities here, right? So people are going to go crazy puzzling out and seeing if they can make something utterly broken with this card. They probably won't, but they might. So you can't rate it too low because it has a ton of potential. Now, unfortunately, it's also one of, right? So are you going to get it? Can you build a deck around just being able to play this guy? I don't think we've got any way to go pull him specifically. Some people are going to randomly generate him and they're going to think really hard onto whether it's worth playing or not. You could just save him for late game and try to stack the top pile of your deck. Or you could build a deck that has the expensive cards or some kind of swarm remove, big wide removal like Priest can do. And then you play this because you want to go draw those in the next couple of turns and get control of the game back or something. He does have decent stats, so even if you just drop him as a 4/5 for 4, you're not totally hosed. How do we rate this guy? It's really tough because he could be the cornerstone of some super powerful deck. But in and of himself is not that amazing. So 3 or 4. I'm debating 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4. I think we're going to go with 3 and see what happens, because he could be complete junk. He's really like 2 or 4, 2 or 4. So I'm going to go 3. Split the difference. Next. Wretched Tutor. This is a 2/5 neutral minion for 4 mana. Spell Burst. Deal 2 damage to all minions. That's all minions. All other minions. All other minions. So not the Wretched Tutor. So you drop the Wretched Tutor, you play some spells, you might be able to clean the board. Now normally we'd be like, it's not that great. Remember the Risky Skipper, right? It's a little bit like Risky Skipper, but for spells, which is a little less common than minions, and it doesn't trigger on the minions, so you'd need to, like if you were going to try to do Armor Smith with this, you're not going to do it because you got Risky Skipper over in Warrior. Nobody else has Armor Smith. So, yeah, I mean, it's got some real potential as a kind of a board wipe in a spell-based deck. Mage could drop this and then just throw some random pings down the line and wipe the board at the same time. So it's not junk. But I don't know. Does Spell Mage need this deck? Need this card? Well, it can't, because it's Spell Mage. It doesn't want to put minions in the deck. Happy to randomly get it, but it's not going to build it off. I'm gonna give it a 2, just because I cannot think of a good deck that like builds off of this card in a useful way, and kind of a strategy. Like this is like a Freeze Mage kind of a strategy here. It would work pretty good in Freeze Mage, maybe. Yeah, that's very specialized though. And the stats aren't really great. It doesn't push strength in the board. It's pretty easy to remove. I'm going to go with 2. Could be a 3. Could be wrong. You can fight me in the forums. Next up. Headmaster Kel'Thuzad. Another legendary. This is a 4/6 neutral minion for 5. So again, a decent body. Decently costed. Spell Burst. If the spell destroys any minions, summon them. Okay, potentially insanely powered. This is the kind of card that just like makes combo people dream. Incredibly strong. Now I'm a little bit unsure on the timing on Spell Burst. This is one of those things, like if the spell kills him, does he summon back? I don't think so. So you have to be a little bit careful. Mage really is going to look hard at this. I mean, imagine wiping a full board, getting a full board. You could just turn right around on Spell Druid or something in an insane way. But you need a lot of mana, or you need some cost reduction to crank this out. A Priest might really love this. Galakron Priest just saying, boom, boom, I take your minion, I get another minion in my hand. It's a value parade. I think he's at least a 4. Don't think quite a 5 because of his cost. Maybe over in Wild he could end up there, but it's not a proactive strategy. It's a reactive strategy. It requires your opponent to have some stuff. So I'm going with a 4 on this guy, which means you might not see him a ton because he's legendary. But if somebody has him, they're going to play him, and he could be really strong. I mean, when he comes out, he has a huge impact. You want to remove this card as soon as possible. Yeah, so I think he's pretty good, but he's not quite busted level, right? So we're not going to put him up on 5. Good card, though. Next up, the Lake Thresher. It's a 4/6 neutral beast for 5 mana. And its text says, also damages the minions next to whomever this attacks. So it has that sort of spread attack. We've seen that on other minions. Nobody plays them. They're pretty good in Arena. Occasionally you get the weapon, like the Demon Hunter weapon does see a little bit of mileage, but not a lot. And it's a little better for like clearing minions in some ways. I don't think this is so great. It was just a common anyway, so I'm going to give it a 2. I mean, if you buff this thing up, it can be a board wiper, right? Like sometimes these things can be kind of strong, but you got to get it down, and you got to survive, and then you got to buff it up. And I don't think it's a 2. It's almost a 1, except you can get a lot of value out of it, right? So I'd say in Arena it's decent. That gets it a 2. Next up, the Ogremancer. So this is a 3/7 neutral minion for 5. Whenever your opponent casts a spell, summon a 2/2 skeleton with taunt. So your opponent has to cast the spell. If they remove this, then you get one. You have no control over it. They can probably just remove him beforehand. He's not threatening on his own. His stats are okay, but they're nothing to write home about. It's pure arena fodder. I'm going to give it a 1. I don't think I'll ever see play in Constructed. Next. All right, the Steward of Scrolls. This is a 4/4 elemental neutral for 5. And the text says spell damage +1. Okay. Battle Cry, discover a spell. Discovery is good. It's a spell, any class. It's pretty crazy. I love these kinds of cards. I love cards that can generate things out of your class. Those are always fun. But 4/4 for 5 is weak sauce. And the spell damage +1's okay. It's probably not going to stick to the board very well. It's just kind of junk trade fodder. Oh, I'm going to give it a 2. It's probably more like a 1. It's Discover a spell. But nobody's going to rely on this. It's just too slow. I'll give it a 2 because you can play it in an arena. How's that sound? Sounds good to me. All right, next. All right, this is Vectus. It is a 4/4 neutral minion for 5. It is a legendary. Vectus has Battlecry. Summon 2 1/1 whelps. Each gains a death rattle from your minions that died this game. Okay, I imagine they are they dragons, these whelps? I'm used to dragon whelps. That's from Magic, though. So death rattle. So this is something you would play later after you've triggered some death rattles from your minions, so you have control over it. Death Rattle Priest kind of likes it. Like anybody who's got some great high-value death rattles, like Priest has some nice death rattles at low cost, and so that's why things like this can kind of work a little bit better. A lot of the other classes don't have a lot of great low-cost death rattles. Then again, would Hunter play this? Probably not, because the impact on curve is not so great. Even if you get like a little damage out of those whelps, it could just be bombs. You could get a couple bomblets. I don't know. Like, I just think he's kind of soft on the impact. It takes a long time to set up a really powerful death rattle with this guy. I don't think he's going to see a lot of play. I don't think this is as strong as maybe the powers that be at Blizzard thinks it might be. Make it a legendary. If this was just a regular card, I might play it. It doesn't trigger the death rattles. Yeah, I feel like it's meh, a whole bunch of meh. I almost want to give it a 2. But because some of the time you're just going to get bad value out of it. But 6/6 for 5 is its total value. I give it 3. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a huge potential here. I don't think so. I think some people will meme with this and it won't do anything. So next. Next up is the Onyx Mage Scribe. This is a 4/9 neutral dragon for 6. Spellburst. Add 2 random spells from your class to your hand. Well, super sticky dragon. If you're just looking for big value, like you get those control warrior decks or something, and you're like, I want lots of value. I could get 2 random spells, plus a big sticky dragon, plus I get lots of dragon activation in my deck, because I'm just going to sit on this thing for a long time. Those decks tend to be like turn 6, I want to kind of get some cards out of my hand and get some impact on the board. This doesn't impact the board very much. It's kind of this long, slow turn thing. It is like a pile of value, right? I mean, it's 2 spells, but you've got to cast a spell to activate it. It might die before that. You might get nothing. Giving it a 2. I mean, I like it. It'd be fun. But I think it's too expensive for what it does. I like lower cost card generation cards, not higher cost ones generally. Unless they're going to give me 1 cost legendary dragons and crap like that. But, All right. Next on the hit parade, the Smug Senior. This is a 5/7 neutral minion for 6. It has Taunt. It has Death Rattle. Add a 5/7 ghost with Taunt to your hands. This is another one that replaces himself. It's a 5/7 Taunt. You get another 5/7 Taunt. You're just treading water with this thing, really. Like, you're just kind of stalling for time with this taunty thing. Maybe if you're playing Taunt Warrior. No, there's just more impactful cards to play. I'm giving it a 2. 5/7 for 6. How does that really just break down for a 6 Taunt? It's sort of average value, I think. Just a little on the high end. It has some card value, but I don't think so. In Arena, I'd choose this. Yeah, pretty powerful in Arena. In regular Hearthstone, it's too slow. All right, next up, the Sorceress Substitute. A 6/6 neutral minion for 6. And it says a battle cry. If you have spell damage, summon a copy of this. Okay, so it could be 2 6/6s for 6. That's pretty good. That's a big impactful turn 6 play. You put out 12/12 worth of force. Your opponent shudders a little. This is a common. You need some spell damage. Spell damage is hard to maintain. Now, elsewhere in the set, there is a weapon that gives you spell damage in Shaman. So Shaman could play this to some big impact. Mage theoretically could play it, but you have a lot of spell damage minions that are not worth playing, to be honest. So hard to see this getting traction. So I think this is a card that is very powerful. But we don't have a really good deck to play it. There's a lot of spell damage stuff. Maybe somebody can build it. Mage does have a few good potentials. So I cannot put this down in the dumpster, but neither can I like rocket it up high because it's dependent on a deck that I'm not sure that we have. If there were some Death Rattle or more stealth spell damage minions, I was like, oh yeah, this could really get somewhere. Giving it a 3. It has the potential to go to 4, but I don't think it will make it. It might not make any appearance whatsoever, but I do think fundamentally it's one to watch. 12 on 6. 12 on turn 6 is powerful, so not to be ignored. Next up, Keymaster Alabaster. Oh, it rhymes. Lovely. This is a 6/8 neutral minion for 7, so those are good stats. Whenever your opponent draws a card, add a copy to your hand that costs 1. Woohoo! So your opponent is definitely going to draw at least one card. Of course, you could pop this down and force them to draw cards, and then you're like playing rogue with their deck, and things are interesting. I think this is a cool card. People will go crazy playing with this thing. It does have a big sticky body, so it's a little bit difficult to remove. Not that we can't remove big minions in Hearthstone. We have plenty of ways to do that. So he probably won't stick around for a long time, but if you can make him stick on the board, your opponent will gnash their teeth and be unhappy, and you will win more all day long. If you cheapen it out and plop it down and then throw some, everybody draws some cards. In Wild, this thing could just get absolutely out of control. It'll give you at least one card discounted down to 1, but you have no control over what kind of card it is. So how do I rate this thing? I want to give it a 4. I don't think it quite cranks up to a 5. I'm trying to think of ways that we can make our opponent draw cards right now. There's not a ton of them, but definitely there's a few classes that can get it done. So I don't know. I'm going to go with a 4. That might be a little bit optimistic because it potentially has this huge upside, but you have little control over exactly what kind of upside it's going to be. If your opponent can't get rid of it, their card draw is a bit stalled. You like, I mean, throw this up against Cycle Warlock or the Quest Warlock right now, right? They're like, oh man, I have to remove this before I can go ahead and play my card cycling, because otherwise you're going to get a whole handful of 1/1s or 1-cost cards. It's been crazy. So I don't know. I love this card. I'm going to give it a 4, even if it's not super powerful. But next on the hit parade is the Plagued Proto Drake. Ooh, spooky. It is an 8/8 dragon for 8. Death Rattle. Summon a random 7-cost minion. Random 7-cost minions are usually pretty good, but they're not all good. Some of them are kind of poopy. There's some legendaries up there that are not so great. It's just a nice strong Death Rattle, but it costs 8. We've seen a few decks that if you can cheat out a card like this, you can cheat out a big Death Rattle and then get it on here, then you can copy it and activate it and do more things with it. Druid likes to play these maybe if they ramp up. But I don't know. I mean, the costing on it is just kind of in the middle. It is a dragon. It's at least a 2. But the question is, does it make it up to being a 3, just a solid card? I tend to be down on these kind of big Death Rattle, replace Death Rattle, especially in a fast, aggressive thing where up in turn 8 you're doing crazy stuff. So I'm going to give it 2, unless people figure out a way to cheat it out. Then it's higher. Next up, this is Double Jump. So now we are off into, I'm going to go through all the class cards, then we're going to get into the dual class cards at the very end. So we are now in Demon Hunter. Demon Hunter, and this is, by the way, alphabetical. It's kind of like it's ordered in your card list. Alphabetical and then by cost. So Double Jump, Demon Hunter spell, draw an Outcast card from your deck. It costs 1. Whew. Okay, so what's really great about this card is you keep it in your hand, right, until you want an Outcast card. Then you play this for 1, and you guarantee the Outcast card gets its Outcast power. So that can be really good. The thing is, like, if you want to control what cards you're going to pull, if you're basically using it as an Outcast tutor, then you can't put too many Outcast cards in your deck so that you get that consistency, but then you have the risk of drawing this after your Outcast cards and it doesn't do anything. If you're just using it as generic value and a card pull, it's cheap cycling. That also gives you kind of another advantage. These Outcast cards are generally good. I think it has potential. The question is it as good as just getting some other awesome random Demon Hunter card? Because all the Demon Hunter cards are so good Do you only want to draw the outcast ones? Yeah. I'm not sure. You'd have to look into the crystal ball and know. It's at least a 3, right? Because you can definitely get a good mileage out of this to kind of help build your hand, get maximum value out of your outcasts. I often, outcast cards are super strong, but they get stuck in the wrong position. You have a little trouble. Purely for card cycling, it's also pretty nice just for a thin, strong cycling deck. So I'm going to put it up on 4. This means you will see it a lot. If I put it 3, it means you will see it sometimes. I think I'm going to go with 3. You'll see this sometimes. I don't think it's going to become a staple. Take that back as I review the other Demon Hunter cards, and we'll see. So I'm going to give Devil Jump a 3. Like I said, I'm kind of conservative. All right, next one, Mage Hunter. This is a 2/3 Demon Hunter minion for 3. It has Rush. Whenever this attacks a minion, silence it. Okay, so you can use it to punt down taunts for 3 mana. It's probably going to die banging into them. So it's a little worse than just kind of doing a thing. It's great for removing Divine Shield minions, minions with taunt. Right now, Paladin is kind of ruining everyone's day. This could really screw up Paladin pretty bad. You can remove all those oaths and things that they're going to put on there. And it has Rush, so you can get rid of that taunt or that enchanted minion. It helps you deal with like Edwin Van Cleef or a lot of things. I think this is a good, solid card. If nothing else, you get to silence something, and you might get to kill it also. You at least do some damage to it. I think it's pretty darn good. So does it get a 4? Does it get a 3? I think it gets a 3. It's solid. It's playable. You won't necessarily do it all the time because you might not have room for it. You might not need it. But if you need it, it's pretty good. So how about I'd rate Owl or something, right? Silence is just a good mechanic. Okay, next up, the Shatter Shard Mystic is a 3/2 Demon Hunter minion for 3. Has the ability Battle Cry, destroy a soul fragment in your deck to deal 3 damage to all other minions. So your minions, their minions. It's not something... Demon Hunter is really designed... I mean, it's got a lot of minions. It doesn't really want to do damage to its other minions if it can help it. It is all other, so you can play this on an empty board, wipe out your opponent's stuff, and then you have a board and they don't. 3 to all minions is a very strong effect for 3 mana, so this is not a weak card by far. However, most of the ways you're going to get the shards into your deck is by playing some other minions. There are some ways to get it without minions. I want to say, I don't know how powerful this... I mean, if you're playing the soul stuff, you're playing all the soul fragment stuff right now, right? And it's pretty good. I don't know if the soul fragment deck is going to be the monster deck. It's a little got too many different kinds of things going on in it. For that reason, this is one of the weaker parts of it, I think. I'm going to give it a 3. A 3. It really depends a lot on the meta. I'm going to put it up to a 4, just because it has the potential to be a really strong card if board spam is a thing, and it very well could be a thing, especially in Druid. This could be a great, powerful answer to that, and it could become standard as a response for Demon Hunter to get control of the board on turn 3-4. So we'll go with it. I'm not sure, though. Being generous. Next up, Glide. So this is a Demon Hunter spell for 4 mana. Shuffle your hand into your deck, draw 4 cards. Outcast. Your opponent does the same. Ugh. Right, okay, so we've never seen this in Hearthstone before. We've had it in Magic. Messing with your opponent's hand makes people very angry. This is a card people will hate. People who play against this card will hate Demon Hunter all of their lives. They will be building a beautiful combo, and Demon Hunter is going to like, why don't you just chuck that back into your deck? Draw 4 cards. I know you had 8 cards before. Now you got 4 cards. So you can make your opponent's hand smaller. That is incredibly powerful. Really scary. You can also draw cards with this. It could be the last card in your hand. It's definitely Outcast. Boom. You get 4 cards. Your opponent discards in a strong cycle Demon Hunter deck. That's amazing. I think I have to give this 5 stars. I don't know if it's going to be meta defining, but it's going to be on everybody's mind. What happens if my opponent is playing Glide? Demon Hunter is going to be a thing. Demon Hunter is still very, very powerful. Demon Hunter will still be very, very powerful. They now have this in their arsenal. They can ruin control decks. They can ruin combo decks. They can tempo the hell out of other decks. Super strong. Could well get nerfed. 5 stars. All right, next up. The Marrow Slicer. It is a weapon, Demon Hunter weapon, a 4/2 weapon for 4. So it's an 8 damage weapon. Battle Cry, shuffle 2 soul fragments into your deck. So this is one of the ways you can get the soul fragments in there. Yeah, okay. On its face, it's a strong, aggressive weapon. 4/2, 8 damage for 4 mana. Doesn't suck. Pretty good for removal on the turn that you play it. On turn 4, you're going to get these soul fragments you can use to activate other fairly powerful cards. It's definitely solid. Demon Hunter didn't really have a weapon on 4, and they're just a weapon-hungry, playful deck. I think maybe it can rate 4 stars. I'm being a little generous with these soul fragment cards. I think that they're combined. I'm trying to include the combined value, the synergy between them, because you're going to be playing them all together in this. So kind of a built-in combo sort of a thing. I'm going to give it 4. We'll see if I'm right. Either of these things are going to be worth 4 or they're going to be worth like 3. One of the two. All right, next up. This is legendary in Demon Hunter. It is a 4/3 for 4. Outcast. Look at 3 cards in your opponent's hand. Shuffle one of them into their deck. Once again, messing with your opponent's hands. Now you have 3 cards in your deck that can do this. In Demon Hunter, everyone in the world hates you combo decks. Running for the hills, being very angry. It gives Demon Hunter a unique ability to muck with your opponent's strategy. That's really powerful. It's only kind of it's a little bit weak stats. You're not going to be able to choose anything, but you get a choice out of 3. They've actually balanced this one sort of okay. It goes back into the deck. They can theoretically get it back. It's reducing their hand size by 1. So you're just trading this straight out for another potential card, but not one that they've spent mana on. I'm going to put this one in on 4 because it's not completely ruinous to your opponent. You can't just completely min-max this into the moon. You could cycle this and bounce it or something and annoy the hell out of people. So that's something. But I think your deck's going to sacrifice a lot to try and do that. So then you're just going to be playing the big jerk deck. People are going to hate Demon Hunter so much. All right. Giving it 4 stars. Might be a 5. We'll see. Next up. Demon Hunter minion 5/4 for 4. Outcast. Summon 2 1/1 demons. So that would put it up to 7/6 in value for 4. It's not bad. It's not bad. There are other things you might want to do. It can trade out okay, but it has to be an outcast to do that. I think with all the other stuff that Demon Hunter's got going on, you're not going to see this a whole lot. Even like any other thing, I might rate it a 3 in another class. Should I meta it? You have to say 3, you'll see it sometimes. 2, you'll see it very rarely for specialized use. People will try it out, and I think it just won't make the cut. We've got that 5/4 with immunity that pops out for Outcast. I think that's better than this, so 2. Yeah, 2. A weak Demon Hunter card, who knew? It's crazy. All right, next up. Demon Hunter minion, 5/5 for 5. Battle Cry. Destroy a soul fragment in your deck to give your hero +5 attack this turn. So 5 out of the blue. Smackaroo. If you have a big weapon or something, especially like lifesteal weapon, this would be a really nice one. But you're probably more likely to have that 4/2, and so you've got like 9 face damage cranking out. I mean, most of that value isn't from this card, just 5 of it. Okay, most of it is. Plus you get a 5/5 body, which is okay. Scary. It's actually kind of scary because there's just so much like tempo for Demon Hunter. You draw 5/5 and you get 5 damage out of it. It's probably going face. I think it's pretty good. I put it up on 4. It's a real solid option. Demon Hunter's looking for some 5-drops now. This is a 5-drop that's pretty serious. I mean, it essentially could give you removal or face damage tempo. I think it's really strong. Next on the hit parade. Demon Hunter spell, Cycle of Hatred. For 7 mana, deal 3 damage to all minions. Summon a 3/3 spirit for every minion killed. I wanted to whisper that last line, but but I'm going to say it out loud in case you're just listening. Every minion killed. So, hey, Spell Druid, so you've just made yourself a big board, and kabloom, now I have a big board instead. That's kind of scary. The only problem is it's 7 mana. You can't count on it being useful in a game. So if you're playing against a thing that doesn't go wide on the board, doesn't have minions that can be killed for 3 mana, then it's not so great. If you're playing this up in, let's say, in Arena or something, it's pretty great. So it's certainly a good card. Demon Hunter likes to have some more board clear. You can make this really kind of control board clear, and then you could save this one for the right moment. Rogue looks at it and goes, what? Oh, that's not good. That's not good. You turn the board around with this, like Rogue, plop, 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 or Zoo, plop, 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 and then you switch that if you were still alive at this point, which maybe you would be, maybe you wouldn't be. Well, it turns the game around, flips the board, so it's really strong. It's not a 5 because I don't actually think it's going to see play that much because I don't think there's a deck that needs this. Most Demon Hunter decks would rather be on turn 7 just smashing your face some more because that's how they do. But if Demon Hunter had like this control strategy, this could be really powerful. So we can't give it a 5 for sure. I don't think it's 5. We're vacillating between 4 and 3. If this was in Priest, I would give it a 4 for sure. It's in Demon Hunter though. What's Demon Hunter going to do with this? They just got like this wealth of powerful cards. They can just decide what they want to do with them. And it does damage your board as well, but you can totally trade in your guys to make sure that their guys die. I'm going to give it 4, even though I think it's more like 3 in how often you'll see it, or 2. But it's really powerful, so I just can't rate it low. All right, next up. Demon Hunter, Fell Guardians. Summon for 7 mana. Summon 3 1/2 demons with taunt. Cost 1 less whenever a friendly minion dies. If it wasn't for the card cost reduction, I'd be whatever. Yeah, nobody's going to bother with 3 taunts for 7 mana, especially in Demon Hunter. They want to be crushing your face. But if they can play this more or less for free, and they have all those like little spammy minion cards, and even if they don't play them, if you're just playing standard aggro Demon Hunter, this could get real cheap, real quick, get you back on the board, keep you pushing face, or blocking the minions that you could attack with. I don't think it's actually super strong, though, because it doesn't have this big board impact. I'm going to throw it in on a 3. If there was some sort of weird control strategy here with Demon Hunter, I think it could be doing more, but I think it's a 3. It's actually a decent card. I just don't think it has a place in the Demon Hunter meta. And it's not a super powerful card. Like, it doesn't win you the game. It just sort of, it gives you some decent value for the mana if you've gotten it cheap down. So I think it's 3. It might even be 2, but it's Demon Hunter. Let's play it on the safe side. Next. Okay, the last one here for Demon Hunter. This is a Demon Hunter minion, 10/10 demon for 9. Oh, it's the Ancient Void Hound. And at the end of your turn, steal 1 attack and 1 health from all enemy minions. I think by steal, that means it slurps it off of all of them and adds it to that. Scary, right? I mean, this comes down on a big board. It's going to be ginormous. Yes, we have ways to reduce its cost by 3, I believe is what we can reduce it by. So that puts it down on turn 6. Could be very impactful and very scary. It could be summoned out by the other 9-cost demon. Okay, it's definitely not a 5 or anything. I mean, it's super impactful, but this is just one of those big marquee cards. But Demon Hunter has ways to cheat this out. It has lots of ways to get discounts on this card and make it pretty cheap. I don't think it's really a big part of the meta because Demon Hunter doesn't have like this kind of... I have a big demon deck and it's okay. It's probably like a 45% win kind of a deck in normal hands, maybe 50%, 55% if you're really good. And this, I'm not even sure if I'd put it in or not, but it's such a scary card. So I think we have to give it... I think we're going to give it like a 3. It has that potential that, like, if it comes out, it's really like a strong card, but at the cost, the question is, would I play it? Does it have a part in the meta? I kind of want to put it down on a 3. So worth playing. I mean, it's a fun card, and you can definitely mow your opponent down with it, but hard to consistently win with this thing. So that's why I'm going to give it a 3. Next up, the Gibberling. We're into Druid now. This is a 1/1 Druid minion for 1 mana. It's a cute little creature in a cage. It says, Spell Burst, summon a Gibberling. Like on first blush, you're like, 1/1, summon a Gibberling. Where have we seen this before? Oh yeah, there's a Gibberling that attacks, you get a Gibberling. I love to play that thing in Arena. In Constructed, it just doesn't quite get the job done. I've played it before. Now this one's a little different though. It's kind of weird. What you would want to do with this is you'd play a little later. It's like actually kind of good for something like Spell Druid if you want to generate a board. So you play a Gibberling and then you play a spell like, oh, I don't know, one that gives you another mana. And then, hey, there's another Gibberling and it has Spell Burst too. So if you play another spell, you get another Gibberling. So as long as you can keep playing spells after the first one, you can fill up your board. So if this was in Mage or somebody else who had the spells that come back, that'd be pretty good. Druid maybe has a couple coming up here. I think they do have at least one. So there's actually some potential for this thing to generate a pretty wide board. And then if you're playing spells that are going to buff up your minions, these guys are going to get buffed while you're doing it. So don't count this thing out. It's actually pretty good. The question is it going to is the deck going to come and then a Gibberling turn is a powerful swing turn that threatens your opponent in a big, big way that they have to deal with it or they die? That's the real question. And as so long as the last Gibberling is alive, it has the potential to spawn more Gibberlings. Now, like the ones that had already spell-fired, they're kind of dead to you, right? It's that last one that's the key, pretty easy to remove. So it's not going to be a persistent turn after turn threat. It's going to be one turn, bomb, and then done. Is it really good? I don't know. It at least has potential, right? So this is a card I would at least rate it a 3. If it's going to get played, it's a 4. It's not a 5 because I don't think this is a thing that these decks can really do. It's not as powerful as like Spellmount, where you're getting like potentially really big guys. So I think we're going to rock it in on a 3 because I'm just not sure. We have to do some deck crafting to really find out and some testing to find out if it's how counterable it is and how reliable it is. All right, next on the hit parade. Nature Studies. So Nature Studies is a druid spell for 1 spell. Discover a spell. The spell costs 1 less. Oh, look. It's a spell to chain off of the Gibberlings with. So should we go back and make Gibberling a 4? I don't know, right? Because still a board for Gibberlings isn't that dangerous. It's just a bunch of 1/1s unless you can capitalize on it. But, will Spell Druid play this thing? Yeah, Spell Druid might well play this thing. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know if there's room in the deck for it is the only problem. That is a pretty packed deck. But it has potential with this thing, and it's certainly not bad. It at least gets a 3. You could theoretically chain Nature Studies with it. There's kind of a bunch of junk druid spells at weird costs. It can be quite expensive and awkward to get. So it's at least 3. I'm going to give it a 3 because just in and of itself, it's not doing anything special. It is a Discover, though, which is really nice. It does give it a little more control. I mean, this could be a semi-staple in Druids, in Spell Druids, because it gives you something to do early. I don't know. I'm going to stick with it like this, though. We'll see what happens. I could enable some combos, but you can't rely on it. Next one. Another Druid spell for 1, so more Gibberling fodder. The partner assignment, add a random 2-cost and 3-cost beast to your hand. So for 1 mana, you're getting 2 card generations, so it's big card value. You can play it on an early turn. This is like the kind of thing that, Quest Druid might have wanted, but we don't have Quest Druid around right now. Is there anything based in Druid that's really about hand size? I mean, you could see like a handlock style Druid. That kind of deck always exists as you cheapen out things and get that kind of potential. We already have tons of card draw in Druid. Is card generation better? No. But it does cost 1 mana. I want to give it like a 2. I want to give it a 2. Do you need these beasts? Druid doesn't have a lot of hand buffing. It does have a little bit of hand buffing. I don't think we can quite call it a 3, but Spell Druid might like it. I'm going to go ahead and give it a 3. It might be a 2. You might hardly ever see it, but it is good card economy. All right, 5, Twilight Runner. This is a Druid 5/4 beast for 5. Stealth, whenever it attacks, draw 2 cards. Ooh. There's a spell out here that you get 2 beasts, and they both get Rush. So if you pull this, boom, you got 2 beasts with Rush. You're charging in. They're going to draw you more cards. That's pretty great. It's got Stealth, so even if you just play it without comboing it, it's probably going to draw 2 cards most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time. And it's got some synergies with a bunch of stuff that's in this set. I want to give it a 4. I think that's really good. I think it's really solid. It's just nice card draw that also gives you tempo in the game, something Druid doesn't have a lot of. I think that's pretty strong. Next one, legendary for Druid. This is a 5/4 for 6. It is the Forest Warden Omu. And Spell Burst, refresh your mana crystals. So it's not play it, and it's not Battle Cry, refresh your mana crystals. You've got to play a spell after you play this. So you have to run it late if you really want to get crazy value. You play 6, you play a cheap spell, you get your mana crystals back, you play something else that's impactful, and now you have a 5/4, plus you played another spell, plus you got something out. You've got tempo going. So it's some kind of like tempo thing for Druid. Never count Druid out for making crazy combos. They can ramp up to this pretty fast. Build some kind of a wide board. But the fact that it's Spell Burst means that you can't run this on 6. You got to run it on a late turn. Then it's really not like a super impact. It's a 5/4 that you're kind of cheaping out. We've got a lot stronger stuff running around in this meta right now. I'm going to give it a 3. I think some people might overrate this card. I might be underrating this card. We've seen some stuff like this before, but it was much more late game. Get a 7/7 and a spell. 7/7 is a lot harder to deal with than a 5/4. Yeah. I'm just going to go with 3. Next up on Hit Parade, Druid spell for 10, Survival of the Fittest. Give +4/+4 to all minions in your hand, deck, and the battlefield. Well, here's a thing to stuff your hand with, I guess. But it costs 10, but Druid can ramp. Druid can cheapen this? No, I don't think so. Not right now, not in Standard. But you can ramp up to it. It does give you insane value once you have played this card. Plus, it does do deck, minions on the battlefield. So if you are playing Spell Druid and you have a big thing and you've ramped up and then you play this, it's like game over, right? I mean, this is a OTK if you have a decent board out. So normally for 10, if it just did your deck and it did your hand, I say, well, maybe it's too late. But if you have a big board and you rank it up for 10, maybe you're just playing Druid, you're just stalling the hell out of people and keeping the board until you get 10 mana and then you close the game out. And then even if it doesn't close the game out, if you just trade the board in, everything that you play has got +4/+4. Your value is going to eventually crush people. This might be better than the regular version of Big Druid in many respects. It's more reliable. So it does clog your hand a little bit, so it might not be playable in the meta. I'm going to give it a 4. I think it might just be too slow, but Druid can find a way. So don't count it out. I could be wrong, and it could be a 2, right? Or it could almost never get played outside of a meme. But I'm going to say Druid finds a way to make this work, and people will be frightened of it. All right, next up, Carrion Studies. So this is now we're into Hunter. This is a Hunter spell for 1. Discover a Death Rattle minion. Your next one costs 1 less. So it doesn't have to be the same minion. That was true on the Druid spell as well. Oh, something strange is going on my table. We're going to fix that. This is a pretty cool spell, but it's Discover Death Rattle. That could be really good. It could be something bad. It could be something neutral. I don't know why Hunter really wants to play this. It doesn't fit into any strong Hunter archetypes that we have right now. I think it's just going to kind of languish. In another deck, it could really be something, but I'm going to give it a 2. And we're going to move on. I could be wrong about that, but that's what I'm going to go for. All right, next on the Hit Parade, we have Overwhelm. This is a Hunter spell for 1. It's going to deal 2 damage to a minion. Deal 1 more damage for each beast that you control. One moment. Okay, I just need to turn off an alarm. There we go. All right, so for each beast you control, do 2 damage to a given minion. So, Hunter doesn't really want to shoot minions very much. He mostly wants to shoot face. So does Hunter need help removing like a big minion? No, not really. So this is, again, like, it's not a bad card, but I don't think they're going to find a lot of use for it, and it's depending on how many beasts you have. I'm debating whether it's a 2 or it's a 1, right, to be honest. I mean, there are some situations where you flood the board with hounds and then you pop off a big taunt. You go face, you win the game. It's really cheap. I'm going to give it a 2. I just don't think it's going to see much play. It's not intrinsically weak, but I don't think Hunter needs it, and I don't think they're going to play it. It's too unreliable. Next up, this is what that thing is showing. It is the Walpole Stringer? Walper Stinger. It is a 1/1 Hunter Beast for 1. Battle Cry, summon a copy of this. So you get another one. I guess the other one also would have Battle Cry, but that's not going to do anything unless you cycle it and pick it up. Hunter can't really do that. So you get 2 beasts for 1. Well, it's not bad, right? I mean, we've seen this card essentially in Hunter before. If this gets hand buffed, so if you go tutor it and it's a 3/3 beast, you get 2 3/3 beasts for 1. That doesn't suck. So this is not a bad card. The question is it like impactful enough and tempo-y enough that we see play for it? I don't think so. I'm going to rock it with a 3. I don't think this is going to be defining. Hunter has so many strong cards right now. I don't think this finds a place, but it's not a bad card, and maybe in Highlander it does get one, and it does something interesting. Scrap Shot also makes this kind of a good value play. But they're really into the rush and charge right now, so I'm not sure that we're gonna see it. Next up, the Bloated Python. This is a 1/2 Hunter Beast for 3. Death Rattle, summon a 4/4 Helpless Handler. So it's an egg. It's a Hunter egg. It's the Hunter egg deck. 4/4 for 3 is good. The 1/2 body, it can attack on its own, which is really nice for an egg. It's a Hunter that you can copy it. You can activate its Death Rattle. It's really a pretty good Death Rattle. Is it super impactful? Is it something Hunter will play? Again, Hunter's quality is so strong right now. I think I just give it a 3, as I don't think it's going to impact the meta a lot. But if a really strong Death Rattle deck synergizes, then Bloated Python may well find a place in it. So we'll put that in there at 3. Next up, Hunter Legendary 4/3/4/3. This is Professor Slate, and funny, crazy-looking guy on there. Your spells are poisonous, so your spells can kill. Hunter has a lot of interesting spells, cheap spells that can do damage to something, so you can kill huge minions with these. You pop down Slate, you poke a couple minions for a point of damage with that echoing spell. That's pretty great. Or you just use 1 cost for 2 and kill something outright. It's 3/4, so it's good stats. I think this is a real solid card. Certain aggro Hunter definitely is going to take a hard look at this. I think Highlander Hunter takes a hard look at this, is a good card. So I'm going to give it a 4. I think it's really pretty strong. It might not make all the deck cuts only because Hunter is so amazing right now, right? You play this guy. So 4 stars. Next up, Hunter Beast, 3/5 Beast for 4. Spellburst, destroy a random enemy minion. Also excellent, maybe not as excellent as that previous card there. And the other one, I don't think he's meta defining, so he doesn't quite get to 5. This is Krolusk Bark Stripper. See, now I'm starting to get just a little tired, you can tell. But we're going to go for it here. Okay, so is this guy really good? He's pretty good. Has a lot of potential. 4 is easy to play and cast a spell. And you're only going to get 1 shot out of it, so you generally only need the 1 spell. It doesn't fit as well into Aggro Hunter, though. And it doesn't fit into Beast Hunter. It's okay. I mean, it's a little bit like our Dragon at 5, but that's a 6/5. This is a 3/5. Gets 3 stars. Pretty good. I don't think it's going to see much play. I mean, it might be 2-star Hunter, 3-star for everybody else. Yeah, I think that's how we'd have to say it. Next up. All right, now we're into Mage. We've got a 1/3 Mage minion for 1. The Lab Partner. It gets +1 spell damage. Well, 1/3s for 1 are pretty good. Spell damage is kind of a weak ability score, generally speaking. I've built spell damage decks before. I always kind of actually like them a lot in Druid because they have these really versatile damage spells. You can hit a lot of different things. You have free damage spells. Mage doesn't have that as much. But it's only 1, and having spell damage on the cheap is kind of nice. So a very specific deck might make use of this, but I don't think we have that deck. It's 1/3 for 1, so it trades nice for Mage, giving them something they don't have a lot of right now. So I'm going to give it a 3. It has potential to go somewhere. I don't think we're going to see it. It's more like a 2 in this meta, but I'm going to give it a 3. It has some potential. It's got some solid stats at 1 drop. And Mage likes to have that stall in the early game, just to kind of stall out other decks. Next up, we have the Cram Session. It is a Mage spell for 2. Draw 1 card, improved by spell damage. So that means you might draw 2 cards, 3 cards, 4 cards. So you could play the aforementioned spell guy and then play this and draw 2 cards. So you get card advantage. If you have more spell power, you get more cards. I could see like spell card mage, spell mage, but most of the spell damage doesn't come. It comes off of minions, and that messes up spell mage right now. I don't think it's very good. I'm going to give it 2. Has potential. This is one of those ones I don't think it's going to realize its potential. We'll find out what happens. All right, next up, we've got Combustion. So Combustion is a mage spell. It is 3 cost. Deal 4 damage to a minion. Any excess damages both neighbors. Again, with like spell damage, this could be really powerful. You can get a lot of spell damage from a spell off of a low cost, but it's very dependent on what your opponent has on their board. Do they have any neighbors? Is their neighbor something small that you can plonk, and then you could like do 3 damage on each side? We've already got a lot of great spell damage spells that are more reliable than this. So I don't think it makes the cut because of that. It's just too dependent on your opponent's situation and not unique enough and doesn't deliver enough value. So I'm going to give it a 2. In Arena, it might be a little better. I don't see a lot of potential there. All right, next up is a minion. Mage minion 3/4 for 3. It's called the Firebrand. It has Spell Burst. Deal 4 damage, randomly split amongst all minions. So 3/4 for 3 sticks pretty nice to the board often. It's not easy to remove right away, so you probably can delay a turn to Spell Burst. You could hit something, you can freeze somebody and have that damage. It's only going to happen once, so it's not like the good old 2/4 for 3 that just keeps on giving and giving and giving. Only going to happen once. It's random, but in a real aggro-y mage deck, this is nice. That extra 4 damage that just kind of comes more or less for free at the card cost is pretty strong. I've already seen some slightly aggressive mage decks, and we're seeing a lot of little pieces that could build into one of these. So I'm gonna give him a 4. Good base, but kind of a nice ability. Yeah, I'll give him a 4. I think it's got real potential. It could be a 3, but we'll see. Next up, Mage Minion 3/8 for 5. That's pretty big for a Mage Minion, or tough for a Mage Minion. After you cast a spell, gain spell damage +1. I am assuming Mozakai Master Duelist, which is the name of the card, is what gets the spell damage +1. So if you remove this, it doesn't go away. Again, boy, if you randomly got this in your spell mage deck, you'd be super excited to get it. You're like, wow, I can go to town with this thing. As it stands in a regular mage deck, I'm a little less certain. But still, you could do some crazy comboing and make things go to town on your next turn if it sticks to the board. I'm going to give it a 4 for its scary potential and its tough body on 5. So often you drop a 3/8, and that's kind of hard to remove, to be honest, on turn 5, unless they've got straight removal. So yeah, I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I think it has real potential, but not meta defining. It's just not quite good enough to completely go berserk. I think we'll see. Next up, Mage Minion 3/6 for 5. This is the Worm Weaver Spell Burst. Summon 2 1/3 mana worms. Now, again, I think these worms are not going to get the buff off the spell that you just cast. They'll have to get it off the next one. But you could start with a cheap spell and then rock some more spells. They're really trying to like cast a bunch of spells. You will be all powerful. Yeah, it's nice when you cast a lot of spells. Mage has a lot of ways to do it. I don't think this is going to like devastate anybody, though. I just don't think it's impactful enough right now for Mage. But it is potentially decent, so I'm going to give it 3. Okay, now we're into Paladin. First day of school. Add as a spell. It costs 0, and add 2 1-cost minions to your hand. They're random minions, so they're kind of junk. So add 2 junk spells for a 0-cost spell. It can be used to trigger spell burst very easily, so there are some nice spell burst things out there that we could take advantage of. And it costs you nothing to play it, right? So that's fine. It replaces itself, at least in value. So normally I would say, yeah, you get yourself 2 random 1-cost minions. There's not going to swing the game at all. It's 0-cost spell. And that's something Paladin didn't have before, and we have Spell Burst now, which 0-cost spells kind of have a little extra on them for that reason. We do have some Spell Burst legendaries and stuff that Paladin can take advantage of. So I think it has to get at least a 3. I have a hard time saying it's 4 or 5 because we're using it as a means to an end, and it's not going to do much in the course of the game. So I give it 3 stars. I think we'll see play. And it could be kind of a key card, but not because the card itself is powerful, only because it's free and it's a spell. We'll see. Next one up is a Paladin minion. It's 1/1 for 2. It is the Argent Braggart, and it has Battle Cry, gain attack and health to match the highest in the battlefield. So this is something you play later or something you play on your buffed minions, and you get a big value, but if there's nothing on the battlefield, it's a 2/1/1, just complete junk. So it's one of these things that you could build a deck around it, but then you have this big hole in the deck that does nothing good by itself. I think it's pretty cool. It's definitely not a 1 because it has that big potential. It's just gaining stats. Those stats can be removed by silence. They could be removed by a lot of other things. It could be easily killed. But it could be a tempo play. I'm going to give it a 2. I don't think it's that good, but maybe somebody will really make it go by hopping up an early minion. I talked about getting that 5/4 on turn 2, and then on turn 3 you get another 5/4, maybe. Yeah, 2 stars. Next up, another Paladin minion, a 4/2 for 3, Goody 2 shields, and she has Divine Shield and Spell Burst to gain Divine Shield. Wow, it's a great card. This is a super value, low-cost minion. We had the 2/2 shielded minibot with a 1 Divine Shield for 2 mana. Super powerful because of the tempo. This is strong tempo on turn 3. You got a shielded 4/2. It doesn't have that like pingable nature of the old 3/1 neutral with Divine Shield. Plus, you cast another spell, you get another Divine Shield, so you get a 4/2 Divine Shield. It bumps something, then you cast a buff on it. It gets bigger, and it gets another Divine Shield, and you're steamrolling like crazy. Amazing card. Giving it a 5. I think Paladin will love this. Almost every Paladin deck that has a minion-centric game that isn't tribal will play this card. Pure Paladin is drooling over this thing. It will be their favorite minion, maybe. It's really good, really good. Next up. Blessing of Authority is a Paladin spell. It costs 5. Give a minion +8/+8. It can't attack heroes this turn. Okay, so you can't use it to blitz people. I mean, if it did, you could attack heroes. What? It'd be insane. As it is, you make a big old minion, and your opponent has to try and remove it a little early in the game for a gigantic thing. Think about, I mean, you could go ahead and swing with the minion first. Like if it's already in play, you swing with it. Then you drop this on it, and you say, I dare you not to kill it. Because then you are just going to crush face. Put it on a lifesteal minion, like the little dragon. You play your dragon, and then you buff it with this, and the opponent's just like, I have to remove it. I think it's a pretty good card, but it's slow. It is slow card. You're not impacting the board this turn in a way that threatens your opponent. But then again, if you just played an 8/8 for 5, would you be happy with this card? You would be pretty happy with that card. So it is, I think it's a 4. I think this thing is kind of scary. It only makes sense because there's just better things to do on turn 5 to push your advantage. Like, you get the 4/2, you get the sword, and then you get the 4/2 guy. That's really strong play. On 4, turn 5, you need a minion down to do this. We might start to see a lot more hard removal because we see a lot of things, and this card is a lot weaker. Priest kind of eats it for lunch, but I want to say it's a 4. I think Paladin could be really scary, and you could just tidal wave people, and they just won't know what to do. You cast this on that other guy, and now you've got like what would he be? A 12/10 with Divine Shield. What are you going to do about that? Cry. That's what you'll do. Okay, next up. We've got the Judicious Junior. This is a Paladin minion, a 4/9/4/6 with a lifesteal. We usually see lifesteal on things that are easy to remove. A 4/9 is not easy to remove. It's on 6. It's a pretty good turn. There's not many other 6-drops that can trade this out easily. The next turn you can buff it with something stupid. Give it +8/+8. I don't know. You put some free wards on it, free oaths on it, and then make it bigger. It's 4, so it's a little hard for priests to just straight up take it out. I think it's good, but it's not super threatening, right? Does it fit into like Paladin's I threaten you with a bunch of scary stuff kind of meme? No. Does it heal plus put a big 8/8, with Divine Shield on the board? No. So I think right now in Paladin it's underwhelming, but it's not a bad card. So I'm gonna give it 3. The only thing is I just don't see it being played. It's not aggressive enough, even though it's really quite solid. And it doesn't have taunt. Your opponent can just remove it and go around it. I'm going down to 2. Even though I think this is a pretty nice card. I don't think it fits in real well with Paladin right now, so we're moving on. Next up, Paladin Legendary. 3/12. For 8 mana, pretty expensive. It is Turilion. It's like a tongue twister, and it's not that many letters. The Tenured. So Turilion the Tenured. It's like it's designed to make it hard to say. He's got Rush. Whenever this attacks a minion, set the defender's attack and health to 3. Right, so he just pops off. You've got a giant super mega minion, and he's just like, off the board with you. That's quite good. He's quite good. And then you need to get rid of him, or he's just going to remove every reasonable minion you play. He doesn't trade well into low-cost things, but who cares? And then you can buff him up, and you can do other stupid things with him. I think he's not astounding, because he doesn't pressure your opponent. Your opponent's not like, and this is a defensive card. For a control deck. Paladin playing control. Paladin kind of can play control. It's definitely got a deck like that, and this can find a place in it. And then you can buff him. He's got super tough, so after you're done crushing all your opponent, you could just face with it like crazy. I'm gonna give it 4. I think he's really good, and he has Rush, so he gives that immediate board impact. So he's kind of like a kill. If he had more power or something, he'd be scarier. I'm gonna give him 4. Which means you probably see him, but he might actually just be like a 3 because we don't need him to win a game. And we're not that desperate to defend ourselves. But there are some big scary things running around in this meta, some big pile-y creatures. He's a counter to that. Of course, they already had a counter to that. You can just pop something down to 1 attack and ignore it for a while. But he removes it. Yeah, we'll go 4. I might be overrating it. I might be. All right, next up. We've got Priest Spells. We're into Priest now. Draconic Studies. It costs 1. Discover a dragon. Your next dragon costs 1 less. Okay, I like it a lot. There's not so many great dragons in the game, but usually when you're building a dragon deck, you're kind of like, well, I don't know what dragon to play. Discovering a dragon gives you like options at different mana levels and stuff. I like these cheap Discover cards that give you a key type card. So I think this is actually really quite nice and is better in some cases than running a straight dragon. Plus you got spell synergy in Priest here. And so I think this thing is actually really kind of solid. It's one of the better ones. And your next dragon costs 1, so you could cheapen a different dragon that you wanted to play on an earlier turn. I'm going to give it a 4. I think it's kind of good. You could use it to like play Straza early, like on your next turn or something like that. Set up. So I think it's pretty good. And we're going to give it a 4, partly because it's Priest, and partly because Dragon is a popular keyword and a powerful keyword right now. All right, next. The Frazzled Freshman. This is a 1/4 Priest minion for 1. It has no text. So it's just a 1/4 for 1. Priest can uniquely take great advantage of a thick body coming down on the board. Yet, I think there's so many other good cards that I'm not sure that they're going to want to run this. We got like 3/5s that drop on 2, or 1/4 taunts that drop on 2, but you delay 2 turns and you're happy to do that because you're going to set up. Then it pops up the turn that you're going to buff it and stuff. So if you're going to do that kind of doubling cubish Priest, I think that's a better way to go. So I don't think this is going to see a lot of play, even though the 1/4 stat is really nice. I'm going to give it a 2. I don't think Priest is going to play this. It's got potential. Next up, Legendary Priest, a 1/3 Legendary for 2. Battle Cry, swap hands and decks with your opponent until your next turn. Another crazy card. This is a card everyone is like, no, don't give this to Priest. Oh my god, they were annoying already. So here's another way to completely screw your opponent. Playing a combo deck, you borrow their hand for a turn and play their cards. Right? You're like, oh yeah, you're going to build this. This combo looks beautiful. I see exactly what you're going to do. I know what you're playing, and I'm going to ruin it by playing this card and this card, and now you can have your hand back, and yeah, forget you. Plus, like, what if you double battle cry this, right? What if you're playing in Wild? What happens with double battle cry? You swap hands and decks with your opponent, then you do it again. You get your own deck back, but then you switch and you permanently get their deck? Or does it switch back twice and you just go back to where you were and nothing happens and that's just really a non-combo? I don't know. I want to find out very badly. What if you copy this card? What if you randomly get copies of this card from Galakron? Madness ensues. It's incredibly powerful. You won't play it on 2. You play it late game because then you want to play some spells. That's why it's cheap. She's super annoying. So you've got to give this card at least a 4. It can be a meta-defining card. Once again, you're completely ruining many other decks, and it's almost never bad, right? Because you drop this, late game, your opponent saves strong, powerful impact cards. They may have the exact card you need in Priest to answer some kind of a play that they just did. You just swipe that from them, you swing the board. Oh my god, Priest mirror decks. There's just so much madness that can ensue. I want to give it a 5. It is meta-defining. It is a meta-defining card. It is a unique minion, but we have a lot of ways to generate minions in Priest and recycle minions in Priest, and so maybe we'll see it multiple times. Yeah, we'll give it a 5. It might just be a 4, but I'm giving it a 5. All right, next up. Priest spell, power word Feast for 2. Give a minion +2/+2. Restore it to full health, and at the end of the turn. So, like, you can trade, and then it's going to heal up. Well, it's pretty good. I mean, back when we had the cleric, like, this could be amazing. Like, your cleric, you buff it to a 3/4, or 3/5, it trades, and then it heals, and you draw a card. So, boy, over in Wild, Priest is really going to enjoy that. Over here in Standard, still, you can put it on that one minion. You can trade something, it heals up. If you have a damaged minion, this is a great way to heal it and make it bigger. It's cheap, so you can play it on turn 2. Like, you could put it on that 1/4. Now we're going to start thinking more about that 1/4. Maybe it's a 3. You put it on him, he's like a 3/6, and he's going to heal every turn after he trades. What are you going to do against that? And it's just going to keep getting bigger and scarier. But I think it's this spell that really makes that crazy, not the minion that makes that crazy. So I'm going to give this thing a pretty good rating. I'm going to put it up to a 4. I think it's pretty strong. It's not meta-defining, but it's real strong. That doubling cube Priest would love the hell out of this thing. We'll keep it on there. Okay. Another strong one to play on that 1/2 with the spell thing that gives it +2 attack, because now it's got a bunch of attack and it heals itself. Blah. Strong stuff. All right, next on the hit parade, a Cabal Acolyte. This is a 2/6 minion for 4 in Priest. It has Taunt, so it's a 2/6 Taunt. Spell Burst, gain control of a random enemy minion with 2 or less attack. Okay, yeah. This is potentially really great value. You get yourself a nice Taunt. Maybe you get one of your opponent's minions. It's real nice against, like, say, Demon Hunter or something like that. But you do need to get it out and cast a spell. It needs to live. I don't think that's easy to do, and your opponent doesn't always have a 2-cost minion to get any value out of it, and it's a little bit weak. Of 2/6 Taunt for 4. There's probably better things you can be doing with your life. But it does stall out. Give it a 3. Like, it has real potential, but it's an epic, so it's like, is anybody gonna craft this? I probably wouldn't, so yeah, 3. Next up, Priest spell, Initiation. It costs 6, has a crazy Murloc on it. It says, deal 4 damage to a minion. If that kills it, summon a new copy. You get the minion straight away, so if it's a big scary minion, getting a copy of it, a new copy of it, could be kind of strong. It's pretty good if you hit like a big death rattle minion or something, where you get a lot of value out of that. But Priest has a lot better removal, and it costs 6. It's really clunky. It's really greedy, I think, for what it does. I don't think this is good. I give it a 2. I mean, it is potentially powerful, but I think the cost is a little prohibitive in the amount of damage, and being minion targeted is not quite there. I don't think we'll see much of this at all. It's not a 1 because it's not complete junk, but you might randomly generate this and get some value out of it, but you're not going to put it in your deck. Okay, now we're on to Rogue. Rogue spell, cost 1, Secret Passage. Replace your hand with 5 cards from your deck. Swap back next turn. This is really good. So why is it really good? Well, it's not really good at 1 mana, right? You're not going to like do this, haha, I swap my hand for 5 cards and they're going to go right back and I just lose a card. Now, this is a late game card. You play this, it's basically card draw. So you're going to get all those things back, but maybe your hand isn't what you want. You just want to play some other stuff, or you're fishing for Galakron, or you're fishing for something. You can go fishing and see what you get. Maybe you don't get exactly what you want. Replace your hand with 5 cards from your deck. So the cards in your hand, the cards you played, are not going to be in there. It's very strong fishing, but unlike the one that draws your whole deck, I think this thing could be insanely powerful for combo decks. It could enable some really wicked, crazy stuff in Rogue. It can be basically just super strong card draw, because you just play those 5 cards, and then you get your hand back. You haven't lost anything. You've basically just drawn a bunch of cards. Wow, I think it's great. I'm going to give it a 5. Maybe Rogue doesn't need this for any of the decks they're playing right now, but I think it is potentially amazing, and so I give it a 5. Just my instincts as a longtime card player says this could be really broken card draw. And you get 5 cards, so even if your hand is like 1 card, you get to choose 5 cards, right? You're going to play a couple of those. It's strong card draw. Maybe you play all of them, who knows? Plus, yeah, I think replace, you don't draw these, so it can't trigger the card draw one, so that's a good limitation. Yeah, anyway, moving on. Next up, spell, plagiarize. So there's a rogue card. It's a spell for 2. It's a secret. At the end of your opponent's turn, add copies of the cards they played to your hand. Yeah, I mean, it's cool. I like this card. It's fun to play in Rogue. It's a good card steal card. But you don't know what your opponent's going to play. You're basically a turn behind them. You just get copies of them. You get them in your hand. You could get overhanded. You have to kind of be predictive about. You can't just like pop this down and you'll just get value from it later, because maybe they just play a 2/3 minion and you get a 2/3 minion and you just wasted your turn. So I don't think it's really that good. It's just fun. So I'm going to give it a 2. Only potentially in very rare circumstances is this really powerful. But yeah, not going to do it. And if your opponent's really happy with the cards they played, they're like, I'm dominating you. And you're like, I have copies of these cards, but I'm a turn too late to use them effectively. No thanks. Next up. This weapon. I think this is really an interesting one. I was excited to talk about it. It is the self-sharpening sword. It is a rogue weapon. We haven't had a kind of an interesting rogue weapon in a little while. It is a 1/4 for 3, and it says after your hero attacks, gain +1 attack. So each time the durability goes down, the attack goes up. So it's a 1/4, then it's a 2/3, then it's a 3/2, then it's a 4/1, and then it dies. And that's interesting because it's 3 mana. It's kind of slow, like it builds up over time, but it's 3 mana and it's going to do 10 damage. So it's 10 damage for 3 mana. It's quite a lot. If you don't have weapon removal, it's 10 damage you can't do very much about. And it just keeps coming for you. If Rogue buffs it up, if you play poison on this the turn you play it, so you 3 bomb, you drop a poison on it, that's another 8 damage. So now it's 18 damage for 4 mana. That's a lot, right? That's a lot of pressure. If you give it +1/+1 the turn after you drop it, so you play this and then you play a greenskin on the next turn, right? And so now it's a 2/5, and then it goes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Because I got another +1 durability. So you're kind of like, you're really increasing. Now you're looking at, I think it's like 18 damage or something. It potentially is a lot of damage on 1 card for a low pound of mana. That's something to keep an eye on. I don't think a rogue deck is really going to take huge advantage, and if this became a big problem, people would just play some weapon destruction, and the value would just disappear. So I don't think it's an incredible card, but I think it's a bit of a sleeper card. So I'm going to give it a 3. It's potentially a 4. I'm going to say it's a 4, but that's the limit, because if it starts to become powerful, the meta will react to it and destroy it. But I'm going to rate it a little higher, I think, than other people do, because I see potential here that maybe other people might not see, but there might not be a good deck for it. But it's a strong card. The right cards come along. That deck could exist. Watch out for it in Wild. It could be pretty cool. All right, next up. Volpura Toxin Blade. So this is a 3/3 rogue minion for 3, and your weapon gets +2 attack. Oh, well, look at that. So you can play this the turn after you play your weapon. You get +2 for as many swings as you have on it. Yeah, okay. Sounds nice, right? Not bad. It works okay just with the dagger. You could dagger on turn 2. You play this. Now you got a 3/2 weapon out of it. It's a 3/3 for 3, so it's not a bad value. It's a decent card. It's not amazing. It's just decent. I still not sure that we're going to see like a weapon rogue deck right now. Rogue's got so many other kind of cool things going on. So I'm just going to give it 3 stars. It's just a generically decent card, not amazing card. Yeah. It's just not as swingy as like that Demon Hunter one we were talking about, which I think is really strong. All right, so now the legendary for Rogue is a 4/2 for 4. Infiltrator Lillian, and she has stealth. And Death Rattle, summon a 4/2 Forsaken Lillian that attacks a random enemy. So she trades really good, I guess. Random enemy, she could go face after she dies. If you can automatically trigger this Death Rattle, that's kind of good. You can use her to generate a bunch of stuff. I think there's some ways to do that. You can get her she's a pretty nice random Death Rattle to pull. So she's in that Death Rattle pool of interesting things. She's stealth, so it's another stealth trigger. So if we want to make stealth rogue decks, she's another option. You get enough options, you start to build pretty optimized decks. Stats are just kind of okay. I'm not convinced this is an amazing card, but it is pretty good value for what you play. So I'm going to give it a 4. I think it's real solid. You're getting 8/4 kind of stats out of it. It's just a little out of control, so it's not quite as good as all that. Next up, a 4/4 rogue minion for 4, so same cost. This is the Shifty Sophomore. She has stealth, spellburst. Add a combo card to your hand. So you can play spell, you get a combo card. So 4/4 stealth. Like, I'm not super excited about this. You'll probably be able to get the spellburst off, which is good, but the timing is, rogue likes to hold their spells. They're not real active spells. They're reactive spells generally. It's okay. It's okay. It gets a 3. Next up. But it might be a 2 because we won't see it much. But I tend to, like, if it's just sort of a decent value card that you could play with if you don't have another 4 card, I give it a 3. All right, next up, the Diligent Note Taker. Now we're into Shaman. This is a 2/3 Shaman minion for 2. Has Spell Burst. Return the spell to your hand. Well, that's pretty good. I mean, getting to use a spell twice. Spells are very valuable resources in the deck. Usually speaking, Shaman spells can be especially impactful. They're almost all quite good if you're playing them. Like you could use it right away, right? So you could play the one that gives everybody +1/+1. So you're playing Horde Shaman, you play this guy, boom, everybody has +1/+1. You get it back, boom, you play it again, everybody has +2/+2. It's only gonna happen once, right? But you're gonna get your value, and it's decent body for what it is already. It's got potential. Giving it a 4. It's not, broken or anything, but pretty good. Next one up, a Rune Dagger. This is that weapon I was talking about. It is a 1/3 Shaman weapon for 2. And after your hero attacks, gain spell damage +1 this turn. So it's not cumulative. Does the weapon gain spell damage, or just you as a hero gain spell damage? I think you as a hero gain spell damage. But I'm not sure how that works. So does it work on the last turn you attack with it? Hard to say. I think your hero gets it, but it only lasts for a turn. Could you attack twice with this and get +2 spell damage? I don't know. I don't think it's very important. It's such a weak weapon. You're just gonna I need to attack with this, and so you do 1 point damage, and then you get +1 spell power. It's hard spell power to remove. So if you're just comboing this to get spell power guaranteed is actually kind of okay for that. Remember, there was that 6/6 that we can drop and it becomes a 12/12, or it becomes 2 6/6s if you have spell power. The Rune Dagger is really good for that, but the Rune Dagger is otherwise bad. I don't know. I don't like it all that much, but it's also not terrible. It gets a 3. Somebody will play it, but I just don't think it's a winning card. Next up. A legendary for Shaman, 3/3 for 3, Instructor Fireheart. She has Battle Cry. Discover a spell that costs 1 or more. If you play it this turn, repeat this effect. So if you discover, so you do get some choices. You get something cheap, and you can cycle, and you could get a bunch of spells off of this. And that's kind of like nice value, I guess, for later turn play, or you just get to discover a spell for 3. It's definitely like a good enough card that you'd play it in Shaman Highlander, right? Because you're getting kind of extra value from this card. It's replacing itself with a nice spell, probably, so it's never bad. I don't think it's like a huge, swingy, impactful card. It doesn't like lend itself to any special strategy. So it is at least a 3, but we might, do we give it a 4? Because it can come early. Right now we have the 3/4 on 3 that gives you a random spell, and this is discover a spell. And if you play it this turn, it has that potential. I'm going to give it a 4. Like in Highlander Shaman, it just has some nice potential. It could be a good swingy card. In regular Shaman decks, I'm not sure you find a place for it because it doesn't have any particular oomph to it. But I'll give it a 4. All right, next up. Be nice to the Legendaries Day. Shaman. And maybe I just get nicer the more tired I get. I'm not sure. All right, the Mana Molten Blast is a 3-cost Shaman spell. Deal 2 damage, summon that many 1/1 elementals. Shaman certainly has ways to take damage of a big, wide board. Deal 2 damage, summon that many. What do they mean, that many? 2? So 2, so if you spell power it, you get 3. Spell power it more, you get 4. I don't see it, because you're not going to get a lot of wide boards. It helps you a little build that board, maybe, but then it costs 3. It's a little on the expensive side to deal 2 damage, and you have to spell jam it. I am not convinced by this card. I'm giving it 2. Next. Yeah, even though we've seen some other cards kind of like it in the past that were pretty good, but those were softer metas than we have now. It is a powerful game right now. I think it's not going to see play. All right, next up is a 4/5 Shaman Totem. So yes, folks, it's a 4/5 totem for 5. It's the Totem Goliath, Super Totem. Death Rattle, summon all 4 basic totems, overload 2. So it's kind of got 7 cost. 4/5 for 4 is not very impactful. Getting a bunch of totems is okay. Getting 4 basic totems, then you can't use your hero power. I guess you don't care. They're not super impactful, but if you're playing one of these decks that just wants to spam the board, yeah, you copy this guy with the totem copier, and he's pretty big. The next turn, I'm sure that's what they're thinking. I think it's just too slow. I think it's too slow and not impactful enough. But it is pretty fun, so it's kind of value-laden. So I don't know. I'm going to give it a 3. It might be a 2, but I'm going to give it a 3. It is fun, and it's interesting. But generally, I think it's too slow for this meta. We'll just get crushed. Now, when it does die, you do get a taunt, so that's something. Yeah, so I'm just going to go with that. Going with a 3. I'm being generous. Next one, spell, Tidal Wave, Shaman spell, 8 mana, Lifesteal, do 3 damage to all minions. Hey, look! It's like Armorsmith in a can, or something like that. So you're probably going to get a lot of health. You're probably going to do a fair amount of pain and suffering. It'll keep you alive for another turn. But it doesn't progress your game. It's not like playing Living Fountain, who comes out and equalizes the board and then also maybe just gives a really painful potential 8 damage to your opponent next turn. So I'm not sure it finds a place. I'm giving it a 3 because it is a powerful effect, but I don't know that we see a real deck for it. I mean, maybe with the weapon, you spend 8, you clear most of the board, you get a bunch of life, you get an 8-cost minion. That's kind of strong. I have a deck that does that right now. It's not terrible. So yeah, 3, we'll say. People will play it, but I'm just not sure it's going to find a good place in the synergy. Next up, Demonic Studies. So this is a 1-cost demon spell. And, I'm sorry, not demon spell. Warlock. We're into Warlock now. It is a 1-cost Warlock spell. Demonic Studies. Discover a demon. Your next one costs 1 less. There's a lot of junk demons, to be honest. There's so many demons, and some of them are pretty junky. Discovering them is not all that super exciting, but it also could be something really nice. It's a real wild card, random or demons are right now. Your next one costs 1 less, so you could cheapen out a demon that's going to put you in some interesting situations. I'm going to give it a 3. Discover is a nice mechanic, but like, what deck plays this? What deck uses it? I don't know the deck that uses it. And then that pushes it more down towards a 2, to be honest. Yeah. It's funny how I rate these. It's like how much I think that the decks right now could really use that keyword in some way. Like the dragon keyword enables a lot of really powerful abilities. The demon keyword doesn't. It's the demons themselves that are useful. So we're going to go with that. Next up, the Bone Web Egg. It's a 0/2 Warlock minion for 2. It has Death Rattle, summon 2 2/1 spiders. If you discard this, trigger its Death Rattle. You know, I mean, it's not bad, right? So if you're playing the discard deck, discarding into presence on the board doesn't suck. You know, it's a pretty nice one to be discarding. If you just play it as an egg, it's okay, but not great. Certainly, it might find a place in a kind of, you know, it's a sticky minion, so it can find a place in a zoo deck, potentially, although the zoos right now aren't so much about buffing, but you could buff this with the imp. Yeah, I don't know. But the discard tends to be like discard high on most of the ones that people are playing. I think it has potential. I'm going to give it a 3. I think it's there, but it's hard to evaluate without deck building. All right, next up, School Spirits. This is a Warlock spell. It costs 3. Deal 2 damage to all minions. Shuffle 2 soul fragments into your deck. Nice stall that's costed pretty well for what it does. Unless we got, you know, there's still a lot of decks that like to generate some small minions. By turn 3, you can blast them out. Plus you get the soul fragments going. Does it work really well? It's all minions, so it includes yours. One of the things you get spell fragments is a 1/3 for 1, so you're going to damage your own guy. It's okay. This one, I think of it as more of a 3 than a 4. I think it's one of the weaker soul fragment cards, so we're going to rate it like that. Next up, 3 for a 4/3. This is another Warlock minion. It's called Shadowflight Scholar. So I should keep these in the pattern. It's a 3/4 4/3 mana. It's got Battle Cry. Destroy a soul fragment in your deck to deal 3 damage. It's real nice. It's targeted. You can go face with it. You can go to a minion with it. This is a really nice one to ramp into. Very effective. Could be really good in Zoo. It's cheap enough that you can play it in Zoo. One of the soul fragment cards works well in Zoo. That last one does not. But if you don't have enough soul fragment cards, is it worth playing them at all? I'm not so sure. But I'm going to give it a 4 and move along. Potentially it's great. But it might just be a 3. All right, next up. It's a 4/5 demon for 5. It's the Void Drinker. Great name. It has Taunt, and it has Battle Cry. Destroy a soul fragment in your deck to gain +3/+3. So it would be a 7/8 Taunt for 5. 7/8 Taunt for 5 is big and scary. It's a demon, so there's some things you can do with it there. You can buff it, make it cheaper, sacrifice it, probably not. So yeah, Void Drinker, I think he's pretty good. Considering that other card, you could play like a ramping druid deck. Is that a thing? Maybe it is. I think it's a scary minion. I think it gets a 4. Next up, 7/7 legendary warlock minion for 9 mana, Archwitch Willow. And she has Battle Cry, summon a random demon from your hand and deck. So you get 2 demons, 1 from your hand, 1 from your deck. She's 9, so like this is a big board. I mean, you just pop her down and you get a board, right? And it might be a big board if you have sizable demons. You've probably played all your small demons by now, so you're probably not going to get a small demon from your hand. But you probably played most of your demons already. Maybe you got a big one hanging out. It's okay. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's what Warlock wants to do right now. We've already got Cycle Warlock. It's just kind of like value Warlock, I guess, up at the high end. I want to just give it a 3. We've seen lots of stuff that goes, get a bunch of stuff randomly out of your deck. It's going to be powerful late game. No, we just don't play them, generally speaking. Yeah, and it's 9 for 7/7. Oh, do we take it to 3/2? Because of the cost? I kind of want to. Yeah, I'm thinking it's just kind of a trash legendary. Too bad. Number 1 is a warrior spell. So we're into warrior now. Athletic studies, it costs 1. Discover a rush minion. Your next one costs 1 less. Rush minions are kind of like removal, so you can pull the one that you want to cast the time you want it. There's not a keywords. There's nothing great about that. This is just sort of like, yeah, and you can set up a cheaper one to kind of curve with. We're not playing a lot of rush minions right now. It's just a 3. It's sort of this middle of the road card. I actually don't think it has a place in the meta, but it's certainly not going to hurt you. You're probably going to get something cool. And there's a few legendary rush minions. You might get one of them because you're discovering it, and that could be really nice because there's some really powerful ones with rush. You could get the hunter minion in your warrior deck, and you're happy for days, right? So sure, why not? I think it's at least a 3. All right, next up, spell, 2 mana, Information. For warrior, add 2 random taunt minions to your hand. 2 random taunt minions. It could be complete junk. I think this card is kind of junk. It's a 2. Next up. Yeah, 2 random dragons is okay. 2 random taunt minions, though. The Playmaker. This is a 4/3 warrior minion for 3. After you play a rush minion, summon a copy with 1 health remaining. Well, it's pretty good for the legendary, isn't it? But will this thing remain in play long enough for you to do that? Or are you going to save your legendary up for like turn 7 or 8 just to try to get this extra value? I don't think so. I think that's a 2. I mean, there's some rush minions that are kind of cool. The regenerating guy, you play that. This, but that's like 7 mana, and then you got 3/2, a 3/1, a 1/1, a 3/1 to rush. Yeah, it's a lot of rushing, but just for the cost of playing this, no, just play another rush minion in your deck. Yeah, I'm not impressed with it. So 2. Next, warrior weapon, the Reaper's Scythe, and it is a 4/2 weapon for 4. Spell burst also damages adjacent minions this turn. So, like I said, I kind of like this effect on weapons, generally speaking. Right now, though, warrior decks tend to want to weapon the face more than they want to weapon a thing for defense. But then again, if you're going to kill extra minions, that can actually be pretty valuable. But you have to spell burst, so I need to be casting a spell. Warrior's another deck with mostly reactive spells or combo-y spells, not just spells you just cast every turn. So I'm not too impressed with this. It could be a 4/3 because you go search it. A 4/3 for 4 is like actually kind of a good value. But would you rather have the bombs in this meta? Probably would. I'll give it a 3. It's okay. It's okay. Maybe we'll find a good place for it. Maybe it's just kind of a sweet spot for cost. For an aggressive pirate warrior deck or something. I'm not sure. I'm going to rate it 3. All right, next up, the Troublemaker. This is a 6/8 warrior minion for 8, so it's got a big body. At the end of the turn, summon 2 3/3 ruffians that attack random enemies. Now, they could go face, they could go at other things, you can't control them, but it is 6/6 body that just generates on the board for you. So you're looking at a 12-14 worth of minionage for 8. It is very expensive, but that is very impactful, and if your opponent does not remove it, it's another 6/6 body next turn. Next turn, you don't get rid of this, you are very unhappy very quickly. It does make a lot of trouble. I think it's a strong card. I'm going to give it a 4. I don't think it's meta-defining. It might not find a place in the warrior deck because it just doesn't curve right for warrior. Warrior is playing an early game reactive strategy right now. This doesn't fit into any current warrior decks, but because it's a card that has potential later, I think I am going to give it 4 stars. If you get this in Arena, definitely play it. It's amazing. All right, next. Rattlegore is a warrior legendary. It's a 9/9 for 9. Okay. And Death Rattle. Resummon this with -1/-1. Now, the first time I saw it, I was like, okay, so you get a 9/9, then you get an 8/8. Man, big deal. That's okay. Your opponent can probably deal with that. However, yeah, it's actually, you get an 8/8, then you get a 7/7, then you get a 6/6, then you get a 5/5, then you get a 4/4. At that point, it doesn't matter, right? But wow, it's very sticky minion. Unless you silence it or something. Silence, kill it. Something to lift it back up out of your hand. I think the problem, though, is it's sort of slow. It is 9/9 for 9. It's pretty impactful. Does Warrior need like an end game? I just play this minion and then I just grind out my opponent kind of a thing. They're not doing that right now. They could do that, but the game is so explosive that I just don't think that happens a whole lot anymore. And, you know, Priest could just vanish it off the board. There's a few ways to just vanish it with ignoring the death rattle. Does it, like, if the Paladin attacks it, does it come back as a 2/2? Probably does. That would kind of suck. Now, you can make it even bigger, and then it comes back kind of more big, but I don't think that's a decent thing. I think it's okay. I'm going to give it a 3. It's like kind of a cool minion, and it is pretty strong. If you just got this out, you'd be kind of happy to have it out. It's like a good card to get generated in a long value-y game, but I don't think you're going to put it in your deck again, because it just sort of is a big hole. You draw it early, you're going to wait forever. It's just going to clog your hand, and it's not going to totally swing the game when you play it at 9 mana, so I think it has to get a 3. It might even be like a 2, because you never build with it. Yeah, you never build with it. But somebody might figure out a way to cheat it out. I'll go ahead and give it 3 stars. I'm being generous. All right. So now we are into the splits. So this is Demon Hunter Hunter split, and there'll be 4 of these cards. So Demon Hunter Hunter spell. It costs 1. It's called Demon Companion. Summon a random demon companion. Unfortunately, I didn't look and see what the demon companions were. I couldn't find that initially. So, yeah, I don't know how great this is. I'm guessing it's not very great. There's some kind of a demon, probably a little bit on the weak side. Do we need a spell in these decks that summon demons? I don't think so. So I'm going to rate it a 3 because, well, maybe it's something amazing that I don't know about, but I doubt it. All right, next up. Demon Hunter Hunter weapon. Demon Hunter Hunter Demon Hunter. I don't know how to say it. Anyway, it's a split weapon. It costs 1. It has 1/4 stats. After your hero attacks a minion, your minions attack it too. Do they attack it one at a time? Do they attack it all together? That, I mean, it could be really bad, right? You're going to kill all your minions because you needed to face something with your weapon. But then again, like, basically it kind of could give them rush. So you play this, you drop a minion, you attack. That minion is going to attack the thing. So it kind of gives you this option. It's really interesting. Like, we've never seen this card or this effect, and it is really cheap, and it's 1/4, so it's repeatable. You're going to take face damage, but you're mostly using the resources of your minion to do the work for you. So that's kind of like you taking damage twice in order to jump something. It only works on minions. Just for face, it's a 1/4. So, like, I feel like it's got this huge potential because of the rush thing, but it's got this huge downside that you're just facing yourself like crazy and yet also diminishing your minion resources. I think I don't like it. I think it's actually kind of bad. But it just has this weird potential. Somebody's going to try to do something with it. So I'll go out on a limb and I'll say it's a 2, and it's a bad weapon that mostly will not help you in most situations. Might even be a 1 because it's so terrible. But I'm going to be a 2 because it's really interesting. So there you go. Not complete trash, but it is an epic. Maybe they've tested this and there's something cool that it does that I don't understand, but I don't see it. Can I give it a 1 just because I want to be controversial? Controversial, Sig. It's terrible. Nah, we'll give it a 2 because maybe I'm stupid. All right, next. Split Legendary Hunter and Demon Hunter is Ace Hunter Kreen. Hunter. He's a 2/4 Legendary for 3. He says your other characters, by the way, that includes you, are immune when attacking. It makes that weapon slightly redeemable, but I wouldn't play a legendary and epic together, just a combo. Yeah, that's pretty good. It's like a great trading turn when you play him out. Plus you can trade face without taking damage, which is pretty awesome. I put that to good use in my Weapon Demon Hunter deck to gain some life sometimes. Yeah, he's really good. Is he a 5? Is he meta-defining? No. He is permanent, like, so he stays around, but he's pretty easy to kill, so he can be removed pretty nicely. But if he does stay on the board, your opponent is in a world of unhappiness. Because, yeah, you're just going to trade in like mad, and then you're just going to trade in like mad every turn. They can't get a minion down edgewise, and you blow them out until they get rid of this guy. So you really need to remove him. But I don't think he build a deck around him because he's just not that impactful in finishing the game, killing your opponent. So we're going to give him a 4, I think. Next. The Blood Herald. Hunter, Demon Hunter. And this is another card. Oh, yeah, okay. So Hunter, Demon Hunter is a 1/1 minion for 5. And you're thinking, wow, that's terrible. But no, the Blood Herald, whenever a friendly minion dies while this is in your hand, gain +1/+1. So if he's in your hand for a long time, he could get really big in Hunter and Demon Hunter. Hunter and Demon Hunter both have a lot of tokens. Druid also has a lot of tokens, but they both have token strategies or just playing a lot of small minion strategies. Even when you're not playing the ones that say make 3 minions, make 5 minions, or whatever, you're just playing a lot of minions in general and generating new guys. And so Blood Herald could get outrageously big sitting in your hand, and he only cost 5, so he could be a big tempo play. Now he kind of sucks if you just draw him right late in the game, and so that kind of limits his ability. You want him in there, but then you don't really want to start with him because he has a 5 cost. So I'm going to give him a 3 because he's awkward. Powerful, but awkward. We'll see what happens with it. Either people will make an amazing plays out of him and he's a new Van Cleef, or he's just not reliable enough. All right, next up is Druid and Hunter. So Hunter Druid, this is a spell, Adorable Manifestation. It costs 1. Give a minion +1/+1 and summon a 1/1 cub. Add a cub to your hand. So for 1 mana, you give somebody +1/+1. You get a 1/1 minion. You get something in your hand. It's a spell. This is another one that kind of goes good with those gibberlings. You gibberling, buff your gibberling, get another gibberling, get another 1/1, get a thing in your hand. It's definitely not bad. It's not like super impactful, but it helps you kind of rebuild the board. It could be pretty good in spell Druid as well, but maybe not great. Is it playable? It's at least a 3. I think it's a 3. You can make it a 4 with other cards, but by itself it's not that. So we give it a 3. We may well see it. We're definitely going to see experiments with it, but whether it makes the cut or not is another question. All right, next up, Hunter Druid. We have a legendary 3/3 for 3, Shando Wildclaw. Choose one, give beasts in your deck +1/+1, or transform into a copy of a friendly beast. Very versatile. Hunter gets a choose one card, which is a great mechanic, generally speaking. Giving all the beasts in your deck, pretty strong. +1/+1, that could be really nice for Hunter, especially. Transform into a friendly beast could be really good if you have King Crush on the board, or you save him and then you play what's his name, get King Crush, then copy King Crush, 16 damage. That's bad times. So this is probably like a Highlander kind of a card for sure. Well, maybe, does it fit in? I don't know. They're so good. They're so good already. It's a great card. I think I give it a 4. I don't think it's quite a 5. But just due to its reliability and its immediate impact isn't super high. I think it's really good, though. Yeah, really nice if you can get both options. That's pretty nice in Druid. You won't get that in Hunter, though. Next up, Hunter Druid card, Teacher's Pet. This is a 4/5 beast for 5. Has Taunt, Death Rattle, summon a random 3-cost beast. So it's just a sticky minion, basically, that has Taunt. Do you want some defense in your Hunter deck? I don't think you do. Do you want it in your Druid deck? Maybe. Maybe this just might curve real nicely for you, and be a stopgap if you're ramping. But I don't think we're gonna see it all that much. I don't think it fits into any of the archetypes right now. So unfortunately, I think it just gets 2 stars. I mean, it's kind of like a 3-star value, but I just don't see where it's played. It's probably gonna sit in my collection and gather dust, or maybe maybe it'll get turned into dust. I think I need to take a drink. And the show continues. Hunter Druid, spell, 7, Guardian Animals, summon 2 beasts that cost 5 or less from your deck. Give them rush. Can be super powerful. There is a couple really powerful 5-cost beasts now. There are some pretty decent ones before, some powerful 4-cost beasts. Things that you might want to give rush and have them crank out into play. It costs 7. Druid can ramp into this. It's more of a Druid card, I think, than a Hunter card. Hunter, it's too slow. And Hunter doesn't really want to limit itself to 5-cost beasts particularly. So I think this is more of a Druid card than a Hunter card. I think it's okay. Gonna give it 4. Not a 5-er. But only because of ramp. I'm not sure there's a deck for it. But there could be a deck for it. It could be powerful if it works. Yeah, I really like it with that beast that draws 2 cards when it attacks. I think that's amazing. It defeats the stealth, but still good. All right, next up, Brain Freeze. This is in Mage Shaman, and this is a 1-cost spell. Freeze a minion. Combo, also deal 3 damage to it. Okay, I mean, Mage loves these kind of delays, and certainly Mage can combo pretty nice, and 3 damage for 1 mana is pretty good, and you're maybe getting some Spellfire or Spell Surge effects, or I'm going to forget what that effect is called. Shaman has some freeze mechanics too. It doesn't have the many right now, so it takes less advantage out of it. Oh no, this is Rogue. I'm sorry, Rogue Mage. Take it back. Rogue likes combos. Rogue doesn't have freeze. It might enjoy some freezing. Rogue loves that tempo that this card could give you, so I think it's pretty good. It's at least a 3. Is it a 4? It's not super impactful for anybody's game. I'm going to give it a 3. We may make use of it. We may not. Next up, the Wand Thief, Rogue Mage. It's a 1/2 minion for 1. So this combo is discover a mage spell. So you can get mage spells in your rogue deck. Could be good. You mage spells in your mage deck. Normal. Combo in a mage deck, not too hard to pull off. So you're not going to play this turn 1. You're going to play it a little later. Is that 1/2 going to do anything? Is this just card generation to discover a mage spell? Mage spells are awfully good. I might play this in rogue. I might not. I'm going to give it 3. It is basically just discover some kind of a spell. Yeah, I think we're going to go with 3. I think some people are giving it a 4, but I'm not sure it quite rates that. It's quite good, but you combo into it. It doesn't combo other things, and it doesn't do much by itself. All right, next up, Potion of Illusion. So Rogue Mage, once again, this is a spell. It costs 4. Add 1/1 copies of your minions, those would be in play, to your hand. They cost 1. So, wow, I mean, you can do some insane combos with this, right? You get some powerful guys up, then you play this spell, you get them back. So let's play, you can play a Dragon Caster. You can play this, get the Dragon Caster back for 1 mana next turn. You get another free spell for 1 plus another thing. The mind boggles as to where all the crazy things that you can do with this, right? But is it too much work to set up to get what it has? Or, also sometimes it's just value. They used to have a card pretty much like this in Mage, but it didn't make them cost 1, but they weren't 1/1s. Oh, it's so hard to evaluate this thing. It's weird and insane. I think it gets a 4. It's just not immediately obviously broken. It's a crazy combo thing. Rogue probably will abuse it much more than Mage will. Who knows exactly how they'll do it. Is there an infinite repeat here somewhere where you got the guy that gives you 3 coins if you cast 4 spells, and then you cast this, you get the 3 coins, and then you cast this, and you get him back for 1 mana, and you play him again, and you get 3 coins, and then I don't know. Like, the brain starts to melt down at this point, and your rope runs down, and God knows what happens. It gets a 4, but it might be insane. Next up. This is our legendary here for Mage Rogue. It's a 2/1 for 5. It's Jandis Barov. And Battlecry. Summon 2 random 5-cost minions. Secretly pick one that dies when it takes damage. You can combo this with that other legendary that gives you an extra summon. So you could get another guy. Or does he double it? I forget. But at any rate, so you could end up with 4 minions for 7. And that would be pretty good. You could also transform one of them or something, just to kind of get more value out of it. I don't know. It's really interesting. On itself, it's a 2/1. You're going to get a 5/5 worth, but it's going to be random. I'm not feeling incredible about this card, right? I don't think it's an amazing card because it's got that terrible body for 5. So you're really just talking about 2 random 5/5s for 5, and one of them is cheesy. You don't know which one. It gives your opponent something to think about. It's interesting. I want to give it a 3. I think it's okay. Maybe play it in a Highlander kind of a deck, but maybe not. It's just too unreliable, I think. Next up, Raise Dead. So now we're into Priest Warlock. This is a 0-cost spell, always noteworthy because we have the Spell Surge now. Deal 3 damage to your hero. Return 2 friendly minions that died this game to your hand. So you buff up your hand size. You're going to take damage. There's some reasons you might want to take damage in Priest and Rogue, and Warlock right now. People will find some interesting way to make this useful. Who are you going to get back? Priest, who knows what crazy things Priest can do with this. Warlock, I think it's a little less useful for that effect. So hard to evaluate this card. I want to say it just doesn't do enough to make its way into a lot of decks. So I'm going to give it 3. But it has potential because of that 0 cost. I'm always, any 0 cost card, unless it does almost nothing, I'm very reluctant. And this does a bunch of things. So let's move on to the next one. It is a minion for Priest. Warlock is a 3/3 for 4. It's called the Brittlebone Destroyer. Battlecry, if your hero's health changed this turn, destroy a minion. So destroying a minion for playing a minion on 3/3 is pretty good. You can target anything and anybody, so it can pop out a big thing. It's a good control card. Your hero's health has to have changed. You could draw a card in Warlock, so it's a little bit better. You can heal yourself in Priest by the time you need it. That might well be something you can do, but a lot of the time, Priest ends up real topped up for a lot of the game. You're like, how do I change my health? Oh no. So I think it's a little bit better Warlock card than Priest card. Warlock very much might like to play this. Priest, maybe, but they have a lot of other options they're more likely to do. So how do we split it? We're going like 3 for Priest card, 4 for Warlock card. But maybe it's just too unreliable for either. But I'm going to rock it a 4. I think Warlock can make good hay out of this and would really enjoy this card. And it's not too expensive. So would you run this on 6? You draw a card and play this? Maybe you would. Maybe you would. Maybe it's a 3. We're going to balance out and call it a 3, I think. Next. All right. The last one's legendary here. It's a 3/6 Priest Warlock. Legendary for 4. Disciplinarian Grandling. After you play a minion, destroy it and summon a 4/4 failed student. So I watched the intro video for this thing. Yeah, you can do some cool combos with this. You pop him down. You play Death Rattle minions. Basically, you get the Death Rattle, and then you get a 4/4. So you play cheap Death Rattles, or you play your lackeys. You get their battle cries, and then they turn into 4/4s, and that's lovely. And then maybe you finish it off with that broomstick, right? Oh, now they'll have rush. It's amazing. Yeah, okay, but you had to build all that stuff in your hand. It only costs 4 for 3/6, so it's got a good body. So it's not a bad card. Plus, you get this kind of interesting effect. But sometimes you wouldn't want this effect. Like, I've got a big minion, and I can't play it because it's going to die and become a 4/4. So this is for, specialized decks. It's kind of, cool for a zoo deck, maybe. Sort of a zoo that likes to actually have board body. Don't count it out, right? It's really good with lackeys and some other things. I think we can give it a 4. If it cost a bunch more and it didn't have a good body, then it would be kind of junk. But it's got this decent body on it and a low cost. So it's pretty quick. You could combo it even if you get a couple 1/1s turned into 4/4s. That doesn't suck. So I like this guy. He's actually quite good. Next up. Okay, so that wasn't the last one. There is an 8/8 Priest Warlock minion for 8. It is the Flesh Giant. It costs 1 less for each time your hero's health has changed during your turns. So counts for the whole game. I don't think it has to be in your hand. So you eventually get this really cheap guy for a big blowout turn, a big tempo turn. Warlock, and both these decks like that. Priest likes that. Warlock likes that. Priest is like, I wipe your board and then I play these 3 minions. Hey, what are you going to do? Warlock is like, yeah, I spam your board and then I play these 3 minions. Or I'm like Zoo, and now I've got 2 8/8s coming at you out of nowhere. I think it has potential. I don't think it's super abusable though, because it takes a long time for it to happen. So we're gonna give it a 3. It's one of those cards you can play, and it could be pretty good, but probably doesn't make it into competitive decks. Next up, Shield of Honor. So now we are into Warrior Paladin. This is a spell. It costs 1. Give a damaged minion +3 attack and Divine Shield. So that's pretty good. I mean, it's really cheap. Now you need a damaged minion, so it's hard to push it early, but Warrior is getting a lot of mileage out of a 2-cost card that gives 3/3, and off of a 0-cost card that gives 2 -1. You're getting Divine Shield. That's something you used to do in Paladin for 1 mana anyway, so this is it's pretty good, but it requires damage. I'm going to give it a 3, but it could be a 4 in the right deck. I'm giving it a 3. But you get a lot of value for 1, but you need a damaged minion, which is very specific. It's a little easier in Warrior, but you could play it on the big dude, on Mr. Bloodboil Brute. But I don't feel like you can build a deck around this, so I'm going to give it a 3. All right, next up. We got the Ceremonial Maul. This is a Paladin Warrior weapon. It is a 2/2 weapon for 3. Spell burst, summon a student with taunt, with stats equal to the spell's cost, so it's got to be kind of a big spell. You have to play it sometime after you play the Ceremonial Maul. The Maul itself is a 2/2. It's kind of a useless weapon. The spell burst only happens once, so you're going to get 1 use out of this, maybe the turn after you play the weapon, so you swing. I think it's weak. It requires a big spell. It works better in Paladin than it does in Warrior, I think, because of what they have. Paladin could I'm going to go crazy, but I think this card is too weak in itself. I'd rather be playing that 4/2 with Divine Shield than playing this junk. Give it a 2. I mean, it has meme potential. I think that's it. Next up, Warrior Paladin Legendary, 3/2 for 3, Lord Barov, dude with big hammer. Battlecry, set the health of all minions to 1. That's a powerful effect. Death Rattle, deal 1 damage to all minions. Not a bad effect, a little hard to control on a Death Rattle, but then again, he's more risky skipper fodder. You play him and risky skipper and something else and another thing, you could get a board clear out of it. In Paladin, I mean, you got combos for board clears with this too. He's pretty good. Not going to blow anyone out of the water, but scary for combos on both of these decks. I like him. He's only 3 cost, so if worst you have a 3/2 for 3, which is kind of bad. But he sets everybody else's health to 1. That doesn't suck. You have a weapon that you clear a big minion. I think he's really quite good. I don't think he wins games by himself, so it's not a 5. But next up is a spell for Warrior Paladin. It costs 7. It's called Commencement. Summon a minion from your deck. Give it Taunt and Divine Shield. You don't control what the minion is. It costs 7. It's big. It's clunky. Yeah, it's nice to get Taunt and Divine Shield on something, but I think it's a 1. You just want a more proactive strategy than this. You're like, I need a Divine Shield minion. I don't care what it is. No, you care, and you're wasting a turn. So, 1. Next up, Rogue Warrior. Another dual weapon category. This is a 3-cost spell, and it's called Course. Destroy a damaged minion combo. Destroy any minion. I think it's great. I mean, I like to play destroy a damaged minion in Warrior. It costs 2. It's pretty good. If I combo it, I get another card for free. And I can combo that pretty, bop a minion down, and then drop this for 3. Yeah, it's a little bit pricey, but boy, that's a big board swing. Rogue, go berserk with this thing. It's super potentially powerful. Both those decks have lots of ways to do damage on a minion. Dagger, if nothing else. I think it has really great potential. Is it a 4 or is it a 5? Does it win games? It could win games. I mean, why return 1 minion to hand when you could destroy 2 minions? I want to give it a 5, but it won't be in every deck. It's a control card, right? So in a control deck, it's, I think, a 5. In any other deck, it's not so much. Maybe the only problem is you can't play it without a damaged minion, right? So maybe that's a 4 because it's awkward. We'll see. I'm going to say it's ridiculously strong, and you just get a ton of value from it when you play it well. And even when you play it poorly, it's okay. Next up, Rogue Warrior minion 4/4 for 4. It's the Steel Dancer. Kind of a cool picture. Battlecry, summon a random minion with a cost equal to your weapon's attack. Yeah, I mean, in Warrior, pretty potent. In Rogue, we don't have a lot of high attack weapons. I think in Rogue is kind of junk. You're just not a lot of, I mean, yeah, okay, there's that one deck I was talking about where you build up the weapon and you play this. Super value. For, like, Pirate Warrior. It's not a pirate, though. If it was a pirate, it'd be amazing. But it's not a pirate. Random minion with cost, so you can get another 4/4, get two 4-costers for 4. Yeah, I mean, I think it could go somewhere. It is not a 5, no. Is it a 4? No, it's a 3. It's just a good high-value play, but I don't know that the deck exists that makes it amazing. Maybe Pirate Warrior. Maybe Pirate Warrior goes to town with this. But they already have a lot of good cards. So, yeah, just going to give it the 3 stars, I think. All right, Rogue Warrior, Cutting Class, 5-cost spell, draw 2 cards, cost 1 less per attack of your weapon. Yeah, okay, so yeah, you could get a cheap 2-card draw late in the game, but again, like clog your hand, you got to get a well of weapon attacks in, you can't always do that, you're going to want to play other cards. Pirate Warrior, maybe. Other cards, no. Cheap, potentially free card draw, I cannot give it like a 1, so it's definitely not that. Is it a 2 or is it a 3? I'm gonna give it... It costs 5 normally. 5 for 2 cards is kind of poop. If it's 2 for 2 cards, then it's kind of decent. And so you have to attack 3 times before you play it. It's a tempo card. It is not like just a straight card draw card. It's only tempo. I think these decks have better things to do. I'm giving it a 2. The last one for Rogue Warrior, 4/4 minion for 5, Dr. Krashtonov. He has Rush, and whenever this attacks, give your weapon +1/+1. Rush +1/+1 on the weapon. That's actually a little better than the one that gives us +1/+1 now. And we are playing Greenskin occasionally on some of these decks, so I think he's pretty good. He's not amazing. I could give him a 4. In the right deck, he's a 4. In a weak deck, he's a 3. And he goes across both of these things. I like him well enough to give him a 4. I think we're going to get a lot of use out of him. That's my take on it. I think I might be wrong, but we'll see. Next up, now we're in Mage Shaman. Interesting territory. We've got a 1-cost spell, Devolving Missiles. Shoot 3 missiles at random enemies that transform them into ones that cost 1 less. It's really good hard removal, deals with Death Rattle, deals with big scary minions with cool abilities, and turns them into random minions that probably suck more, but maybe are cool, who knows. It's not very good at 1 mana. I mean, you don't cast it your first turn. You cast it late in the game. It's kind of a tempo card. Kind of a cool one for them to get out of a random spell generation. Would you put it in a deck? If you are worried about very specific kinds of things, if you want to stall, you might put it in a deck. I give it a 3. I mean, it's a powerful effect, but it's not super reliable. So that's the reason I don't like it. Wow, my green screen is terrible right now. Oh well. So it goes. Bad green screen, hopefully good advice. Next up, we've got another Shaman Mage spell for 1. It's called Primordial Studies. Discover a spell. A spell damage minion. Your next one costs 1 less. A lot of them are not that good. There is a legendary spell damage minion, and that is kind of nice. Costs 1. The next one costs 1 less, so you kind of get it for free. If you really want a spell damage minion now, you can get one that's kind of costed towards the turn you're on. We have these spell damage potentials. I'm going to give this one a 3. It's kind of a good way to have a spell damage minion. It doesn't clog up your hand. You're not committing to anything until you really need one or want one. Then you can get one costed the way you want. Could be cost 0, so you just spend 1. You get spell damage minion when you need them. I give it a 3. I'm not convinced spell damage is a great thing. All right, next one is a 0/3 totem. So Mage gets a totem. Cool. Mage Shaman. For 2 mana, it's the Trick Totem. At the end of your turn, cast a random spell that costs 3 or less. Could be 1, could be 2, could be 3. You could kill your Trick Totem. I don't think it's very good. I think it's fun. You definitely play it for fun. I don't think you can push any real advantage out of this. No, not for the totem deck. Not for anything. Could wipe your board. Could stick you with a bunch of lower, could stick you with lockdown, mana lockdown, overload. It could stick you with some overload at a bad time. I think it's super dangerous to play it. I think it's a 1. Sorry, Trick Totem. You're fun, but you're bad. Next up, Ras Frost Whisper is also Shaman Mage. It is a 3/6 legendary for 5. At the end of your turn, deal 1 damage to all enemies, improved by spell damage. Could be 2, could be 3. I mean, 1 damage to all your enemies. We had the Demon 4/5. He did that. He's good. This is pretty good. It's definitely not bad. And it could be more. It could be devastating under the right circumstances if they don't remove him right away. He does have a decent body for 3/5. Mage can make good use of him. Shaman could make pretty good use out of him. But you can't build around him for a deck because he's a legendary and his power isn't that strong. I'm going to give him 4. Yeah, 4. He's generically good. But is he important in any of the decks right now? He's not. He's not. So that could put him down to 3. And it's not super impactful at 5. I think we're going with 3. I might be wrong. It could be 4. We could make good use out of him, but I don't think so because I don't believe in the spell power deck. I just don't believe in it yet. Maybe it will be amazing. All right, next up, Priest Paladin, Waves of Apathy, 1-cost spell. Set the attack of all enemy minions to 1 until your next turn. Lots of combo potential with this. In Wild, there's some things that you can board wipe with it pretty easily. Very good if you already have a board and you just want to trade into a bigger board that they played to try and counter your board. That happens occasionally. But a Paladin, again, if it was health, amazing, because it's attack. 2. I have Waves of Apathy about Waves of Apathy. I'm very apathetic. It gets a 2. Next. And plus, name joke, can't resist in these kinds of things. All right. Priest and Paladin spell, cost 3, Gift of Luminance. Give a minion Divine Shield, then summon a 1/1 copy of it, which presumably has Divine Shield. Good for death rattles. Priest likes that pretty well. Yeah, great to cast on the thing that gives you an extra spell when you cast a thing. So you play that on 2, or you do this plus this on 5, and you've got 2 of them, and you're drawing spells again, and you're gleefully happy. You're not really killing your opponent, but you're generating all this value, making your opponent groan and moan if they can't do anything about it. It could be annoying in Paladin as well. Do you get a copy of it with the spells on it because maybe you have all those whatever they are, the spells that Paladin likes to play on their guys, and they get cheaper. Did you copy those? If you copy the minion, I don't know. So there's some open questions. It's at least a 3. It might be a little bit slow to call it a 4. It doesn't advance your game. That 1/1 isn't going to like gangbuster you or something. And they're kind of aggressive right now, especially Paladin. I'm going to give it 3, but it has some potential. Let's see. Their legendary for Paladin Priest is a 3/6 for 4 called High Abyss Allura. Lots of cheaper legendaries now, which is kind of nice. Spellburst, cast a spell from your deck. Target this if possible. So for buffing, it's a 4/3/6. You could get that 8/8 buff. Woohoo! There's some cool. You could get a copy of it in Priest. I think it has some crazed potential. It has crazed potential to get really good spells on it. Paladin, man, because there's so many interesting possibilities, it's always going to be good. Sometimes it will be broken as heck. I'm going to give it a 5. Maybe this is a broken card. Maybe not. I'm feeling positive about the High Abyss. All right, next up. Priest Paladin, a minion, 4/5 for 6. Divine Shield and Taunt. Costs 1 less for each spell you've cast on friendly characters during the game. Right? So it builds up in your graveyard. You might pull this out, and it's a free 4/5 Divine Shield Taunt. That's pretty darn good. Tempo City, potentially. Cloggy in your hand to start the game with. You want it buried deep in your deck. You want to pull it later on some card draw or something. 4. Potentially, I mean, it has like 5 level value in some decks, but I think it's going to be 4 because it's a little awkward. Next up, now we're into Warlock and Demon Hunter, so Land of Demon. For 1, you get Philosophy. Not philosophy, but philosophy. The theory of evil, I guess. All right, copy the lowest cost demon in your hand. Outcast, give them both +1/+1, so a Warlock Outcast card. Lowest cost 1. It's like kind of a zoo card, but it's not like a super strong zoo card. I kind of don't like it, but there are some times, I mean, if your lowest cost 1 is a gangbuster demon, yay, you get 2 awesome demons by copying this with Philosophy. I don't see that in a deck. I'm going to give it 3 because it has some potential. It just might be the right cost, the right way. I think probably going more towards 2, considering how good the rest of these decks are. I'm going 2. All right, the Spirit Jailer. It is a minion in Warlock Demon Hunter, and it is a 1/3 for 1, which is nice stats. It is a demon, which is good value. Battlecry, put 2 soul fragments into your deck. If you're playing soul fragments, and they are pretty strong, I think you have to play this. It's a great card. It goes well. You can kind of zoo it. You can do a lot of different things with it. I think it gets a 4. It's just really solid. Great if soul fragments are really powerful. Don't know if they're going to expand on soul fragments or if all we got is all we got. If all we got is all we're going to get, then it probably goes down to a 3 because that deck is kind of doomed in the long run. If we get more soul fragment cards, could be 4, could be a 5, could be essential for that. It is essential for that archetype. You must play Spirit Jailer, I think. But is the archetype any good? It's at least okay. Giving it a 4. Next. The next one for Demon Hunter and Warlock is Soul Shear. It's a spell for 2. Deal 3 damage to a minion. Shuffle 2 soul fragments into your deck. This one is generically very useful. It's better than some of those other ones that are on the whole board. So I like this one pretty good. It gets a 4. Just nice tempo, leading you into a big mid-game with those key cards, especially in the Warlock version. I think it's pretty strong. Next up, for Demon Hunter Warlock, is a 5/5 legendary for 7. It's Soul Seologist Malicia. Pretty cool. Battle Cry. For each soul fragment in your deck, summon a 3/3 soul with Rush. So this is your final follow-up on the pressure campaign off of the soul fragment deck. Clear the board, have a 5/5. You probably like 3 or 4 of these things. I mean, it's not bad. It's like Dr. Boom, a little more immediacy. But then again, maybe if you don't need to trade them, it's a big old scary board. 4. I'm going to say 4. All right, next up. Shaman, and this is one of the most controversial cards, I think. Shaman and Druid, thank you. Sig's brain starting to melt a little bit under the pressure of doing so many cards all in a row. Normally, I think people do these in takes and they build a video. I'm just doing them straight live. Crazy man that I am. Okay, Lightning Bloom, a 0-cost spell for Druid Shaman. Gain 2 mana crystals this turn only. Overload 2. So you're going to lose 2 mana crystals next turn. You gain 2 this turn. Crazy ramp. Druid loves it. Druid ramping into ramp, or just Druid getting a big... the Spellfire, Spell Druid loves this card. Shaman can probably do something really crazy and weird with this card too. You just get out on an earlier turn. I think for Druid it's scarier because they can turn a short-term ramp into a long-term ramp. They can use it to draw cards. There's a lot of things that trigger. You got the spell triggering with this thing. The Spell Surge. I keep forgetting what it's called now. I'll get it eventually. The Overload 2, something to consider. That kind of gets in the way of the ramp a little bit, the way it normally works. Shaman is used to it. You kind of build around these sorts of things. So it might not be really great, but basically this enables some stupid stuff that you shouldn't be able to do, so it gets a 5. Because enabling stupid stuff you shouldn't be able to do makes broken decks somewhere, somehow. Some Hearthstone player will find a way to abuse this terribly and it'll have to get nerfed. So yeah, it gets a 5. Next. I don't know what that is yet, but we'll find it. We have a Druid Shaman Legendary, 1/4 for 3. Speaker Gidra. Rush and Wind Fury and Spell Burst gain attack and health equal to the spell's cost. Note that's permanent. So you can pop it down and then cast a 7-cost spell, and it's an 8/12 with Wind Fury, and Rush clears your board out like nobody's business. Even if you cast it with a 3-cost spell, then it's pretty good. If you cast it with less than that, it's kind of weak. If your opponent sees it and you don't cast right away, they're going to kill it. I don't think it's absolutely broken or anything. It doesn't have charge. Charge Wind Fury would be absolutely broken. You can delay this a turn, but you probably don't. But then again, if you can make it stick on a board and then next turn you just play a 4-cost spell and you're on turn 4, this is a massively powerful minion. Give it a 4, but it might be a 3 because we just can't make it work. I'm not sure, but I think Druid can make it work. Mr. Rampy, I can make anything work. All right, next up, Druid Shaman. Minion, 4/5 for 4, Groundskeeper, Taunt. Battle Cry, if you're holding a spell that costs 5 or more, restore 5 health 4/5 for 4 is a pretty good taunt. Restoring 5 health, you often don't need it on turn 4. It's a little bit weird timing because you're often not taking a lot of damage, but it's great stall against an aggressive deck. It will stop aggressive decks in their tracks. If Druid needs to stall or if Shaman needs to stall, Shaman almost always needs to stall. I think it's a good solid card. Both of these guys have a lot of spells they might want to cast that cost 5. It's a good stall for that. I like it a lot. I'm giving it 4. It might be a 3, but I'm giving it 4. I think Groundskeeper's pretty good. All right, next up. For 6, Shaman and Druid. And this is our last card. Oh my god, I got to the end. I'm pretty sure this is the last one. Runic Carvings. For 6, choose one. Summon 4 2/2 Treant totems. Or Overload 2. Summon them with Rush. Summon them with Rush. Do I want to rush my little totems, or do I want to put them down, hope my opponent doesn't remove them, and blast them out of the game? I want to do the latter, I think. But still, that's like 8/8 rush. It can kind of save your bacon, so it could stall. It's a pretty good choose one. Pretty good options for both of these decks. It's not astounding value, but it's decent value. They are totems. They're tree and totems. Both decks can like combo off of this. Shaman can do some interesting things. Don't count it out. It's a pretty good card. And we get 4 of them. We used to get 3 for 5, which was not great. 4 for 4 would be astounding. I don't know. I have to give it a 3. I think right now you can get like 7 for 5 in some of these decks. Almost like Shaman, it presents something a little bit more unique than you get in Druid. We could go up to 4 with it. I don't know. My instinct says it's more of a 3 than a 4. The deck that wants to play it doesn't want to use it for the rush ability, really. So it's just 4 minions on 6, which is only decent value, but not amazing. So I think we're going with 3. But we'll see how it goes if these decks that are like keyed on that, swarm decks, are super powerful. But I think Druid already has better strategy. And I think Shaman may have a better strategy already as well. So it might actually just end up being a 2. So I'm going 3. Whew, we're at the end. I am not going to imagine decks yet. We're going to do that next. I will be trying to figure out overall what decks are going to be coming out of this, what we can build, is it amazing or not. I'm usually pretty bad at predicting that. I tend to like to get my hands on the deck first. I'm pretty good at building them, but I'm not really sure how great it is until I play 3 or 4 games with it and get a sense if it just flows or not. But I will be building lots of decks. I think there's all kinds of potential. There are many archetypes here that we can try to build. Some of them are going to work. Some of them are not. Some of them are going to be broken as heck. People are going to take the existing archetypes and tune them up. I think everything is going to get stronger and faster and scarier. There's a few archetypes, maybe like some of the warrior, that's not going to pick up a lot of new stuff out of the set, but they might just tweak. Hunter maybe isn't going to get a lot stronger, but warlock and priest and shaman hopefully can make some kind of a comeback. Nobody here gets shafted. Paladin looks like it could be devastating. Keep an eye on them. I think that's going to be it for now. All right, everybody, have an incredible time out there with the new set. It's a super exciting time in Hearthstone. Thanks for tuning in. Share your opinions with me. Tell me where I'm completely wrong. I won't argue with you too much unless I think you're crazy, but that's fine because that is actually kind of the fun of the game. Yeah, and tell your friends, tell other people to come check it out if you think I give some wise advice in this one or have some cool ideas. All right, that's going to be it for today. SigTrent signing out. Thanks so much for enjoying the card preview with me, and we will see you around next time. You can check out my channel over on Twitch, and you can check out my website, sigtrent.com. I got links to Patreon and everything else cool that I'm doing there. We've got articles and stuff, free games that we give away, and free games we tell you about. It's good times. All right, take care, and good night.